Chapter 67. Mark appeared to be very confident. Due to cultural reasons, the Western world's warriors were more direct. Among the warriors, there are often fights. Among the rank 6 warriors, not many could be compared with Mark, and Mark had never been defeated before. This time, facing Yang Tian, who was thinner and weaker than him, of course he was confident. Pong! Mark was the first to move. He directly rushed toward Yang Tian, holding his huge sword with both hands, and slashed at Yang Tian. The sword in Mark's hand was 10 centimeters wide and almost as thick as a finger. It looked extremely heavy. Facing this sword, Yang Tian immediately dodged, and Mark's sword slashed into the snow, splitting a rock in the snow. Whoosh! A strong wind blew. Mark's attack missed. He turned around, and the huge sword in his hand swept toward Yang Tian, making a whistling sound due to the friction between the sword and the air. Although Mark was tall, and the huge sword in his hand was also a heavy weapon, his movements were very agile, giving off a contradictory feeling. Mark was only a peak rank 6 warrior. Yang Tian was confident that he could defeat Mark, but he did not underestimate Mark. Facing Mark's sword, Yang Tian also dodged. Mark saw that Yang Tian was always dodging, so he stopped. He looked at Yang Tian, frowned, and said, "Don't always dodge, okay? Are you afraid that I will hurt you? Don't worry, I told someone to tell Qin Fei that I will not kill you." "All right." Yang Tian looked at the Tang saber in his hand and nodded. Whoosh! Mark laughed. He held his huge sword with both hands and slashed at Yang Tian again. Yang Tian raised his sword to meet the attack. Pong! The sword and the saber collided, but there was no sound of metal clashing. Instead, it was more like a sonic boom. This was because when the two weapons came into contact, there was a rapid vibration after the collision. Maka's sword was very powerful. Yang Tian raised his saber to meet it. Maka's power was transmitted from his saber to his body. It affected the ground, and Yang Tian's calves sank into the snow. Maka's strength was actually a bit stronger than Zhao Xuanxing's. However, after a period of training, Yang Tian had already understood some techniques to use strength. The power of the Dragon Balls in his body circulated, and he exquisitely controlled the trembling of his muscles, dissipating most of Ma Ke's power. Otherwise, Ma Ke's sword would have smashed half of his body into the ground. While controlling this power, Yang Tian also sent out a portion of his power. This was a type of borrowing power and using his own power, causing Ma Ke to be knocked back a few steps. The two of them separated. Mark looked at Yang Tian with a face full of surprise. "Yang, your strength is very strong. In Hero City, very few people dare to take my sword head-on." After being stunned for a moment, Ma Ke nodded to Yang Tian. Yang Tian smiled and looked at the saber in his hand. He discovered that a small gap had appeared on the saber made of white elemental alloy. "It seems that after returning, I will have to order a suitable weapon," Yang Tian thought. This saber had been with Yang Tian for half a year. Now that Yang Tian used it, he felt that it was a bit light. "Ma Ke, you attacked 3 times. Now it's my turn." Yang Tian wiped the saber with his finger, looked up at Ma Ke, and said with a smile. The battle between Yang Tian and Ma Ke was not a life or death battle. Naturally, it was a spar. Ma Ke nodded at this time. He held his sword with both hands and made a defensive posture. "Snow slashing saber." Yang Tian lightly shouted as his body moved. This was the first time that Yang Tian used the snow slashing saber technique against an opponent of the same level. CS, the saber in Yang Tian's hand instantly turned into a white, chaotic light that enveloped Ma Ke. After the previous attack, Ma Ke already regarded Yang Tian as the most powerful opponent of the same level that he had ever met. Facing Yang Tian's attack, he focused all his attention. Seeing countless white saber shadows coming at him, Ma Ke caught sight of the real saber and raised his huge sword to meet it. The collision between the weapons that Ma Ke expected did not happen. The saber in Yang Tian's hand brushed against Ma Ke's huge sword. The turbulent airflow blew off a strand of Ma Ke's brown hair. In an instant, Yang Tian and Ma Ke brushed past each other. The two of them stopped 5 meters away from each other with their backs facing each other. Yang Tian turned his head and looked at his shoulder. There was a very deep wound there, but because his body had been strengthened, this wound was nothing much. However, a lot of blood was flowing out from the wound. Seeing this small injury, Yang Tian shook his head. He was not satisfied with his saber technique. "I've lost." At this moment, Maka's voice came from behind Yang Tian. Yang Tian turned around and saw Maka squatting down and picking up a strand of brown hair from the ground. "It was cut off by Yang Tian just now. If your saber had landed on my neck, I would have died." After picking up the hair, Maka shook his head again. Yang Tian nodded. Just now, he had deliberately cut off Mark's long hair by slanting his blade. Yang Tian looked at Maka quietly. He thought to himself, this guy was defeated by me. Would he be depressed? However, Maka quickly smiled and looked at Yang Tian. "Yang, you are qualified to have a beautiful woman like Qin Fei. I withdraw." Yang Tian said, "Qin Fei is my girlfriend. It doesn't matter to me whether you withdraw or not, because Xiao Fei and I love each other. However, you have to give me that pony. I want to give it to Xiao Fei." "I'm afraid that's not possible." Maka shook his head and said, "I treat Nasha as my friend. How can I give her daughter away, casually? Even if I agree, Nasha won't agree." Yang Tian smiled and said, "In other words, if I want to get this pony, I need your Nasha's consent." "Yes." Maka nodded. Yang Tian smiled mischievously. It wasn't difficult to get this mother unicorn to agree. If the little blue dragon was involved, it could definitely be done. Thinking of this, Yang Tian couldn't help but think of the situation when the little blue dragon and the mother unicorn were discussing. But first, he had to let Maka stay here for a while. "Maka, let's be friends." Yang Tian smiled and said, "Be friends?" Maka was a little surprised. Yang Tian nodded in. "Good friends." Maka smiled and nodded. At this moment, a white-haired man in black clothes walked over with a large saber. This man was Bai Kai. In addition to Bai Kai, there were many warriors surrounding them. Yang Tian frowned and looked at Bai Kai. He didn't know what these people wanted to do by coming here. However, Yang Tian could predict that these people had bad intentions towards him. At this moment, Yang Tian remembered Qin Jingyang's last words to him before leaving. That was to kill Bai Kai. When Yang Tian and Ma Ku were sparring, the surrounding warriors were getting closer and closer. In a few steps, Bai Kai arrived in front of Ma Ku. He first glanced at Yang Tian and then said to Ma Ku in fluent English, "Mr. Ma Ku, welcome to the East." Bai Kai already knew Ma Ku's identity through the warrior auxiliary device. It wasn't a secret that Ma Ku came here to duel with Yang Tian. Chapter 68. Mark looked at Bai Kai and nodded at him. He didn't know why Bai Kai suddenly came here, but he smiled and nodded at Bai Kai. Bai Kai looked at Yang Tian again and said with a smile, "Mr. Mark, we can work together to kill Yang Tian. If Yang Tian dies, although Miss Qin Fei, who you like, will be sad for a while, in the future, as long as you continue to pursue Miss Qin Fei, she will be moved by you in the end and become your lover." When Mark heard this, he laughed and shook his head. "If Yang Tian dies, the situation you said is very likely to happen. But this is a very despicable method. I won't do it." After Mark finished speaking, he smiled and looked at Yang Tian. Yang Tian finally knew what kind of person Bai Kai was. He was simply despicable and shameless. He would do anything to achieve his goal. Yang Tian looked at his wound that was no longer bleeding. He knew that Bai Kai must think that Mark could hurt him. Moreover, Mark also had a very powerful pet beast. If he could win Mark over to their side, they would have the confidence to defeat him. Mark tactfully refused, but Bai Kai didn't give up. He said with a smile, "Although it's against your chivalry, you can imagine the days when you live happily with Miss Qin Fei in the future. It's the happiest thing in our lives to be with the person we love. What do you think, Mr. Mark?" After Bai Kai finished speaking, Mark was silent for a moment, nodded, and said to Bai Kai, "Mr. Whitehair, what you said is very reasonable. I can help you kill Yang Tian." "Ha ha." Seeing that Mark agreed, Bai Kai laughed loudly. Yang Tian didn't believe that Mark would be persuaded just like that. While Yang Tian was puzzled, Bai Kai suddenly stopped laughing and said to Yang Tian, "Yang Tian, Now you understand. As long as there are enough benefits, your good friends can turn against you. After Bai Kai finished speaking, he waved his hand. At this time, more than 10 cultivators suddenly rushed over from afar, sealing off all of Yang Tian's escape routes. At this time, Mark looked at Yang Tian and smiled. Yang, I'm sorry. The result, he said, is too good for me. So beautiful that I can give up my chivalry and my promise. After Mark finished speaking, he gave his unicorn a look. The unicorn immediately protected the pony and walked away. Yang Tian ignored Ma Ku but smiled coldly. Sweeping a glance over the martial artists surrounding him, he said coolly, "All stop talking nonsense. Attack together." Yang Tian had chosen a very good time. Yang Tian had practiced his saber techniques for almost a day, and then he had exchanged a few moves with Mark. Although it was only a few moves, it had consumed a lot of his strength and energy. This was the time when Yang Tian was most exhausted. Attack! The moment Yang Tian finished speaking, Bai Kai suddenly waved his hand and shouted. Immediately, 3 level 5 martial artists rushed towards Yang Tian. At this time, the 3 of them looked at Yang Tian with a crazed look in their eyes. They did not know what benefits Bai Kai had promised them. Yang Tian's face was gloomy. The saber in his hand turned into a white light and slashed towards the 3 of them. At this time, Bai Kai also moved. Bai Kai's weapon was a large saber. This saber looked even heavier than Mark's greatsword. Whoosh! Bai Kai's figure moved, dragging his saber as he charged towards Yang Tian. His body broke through the air, causing a strong gust of wind. Chi chi chi. With 3 consecutive sounds, Yang Tian's saber slashed the 3 level 5 martial artists. In terms of speed and reflexes, there was a huge gap between the level 5 martial artists and Yang Tian. When Yang Tian's figure passed by the 3 of them, the 3 level 5 martial artists covered their necks. Their eyes were wide open and their faces were filled with horror. They could not believe that the exhausted Yang Tian could still be so fast. At this time, Bai Kai had already arrived behind Yang Tian and slashed towards Yang Tian. Bai Kai's timing was very good. This was when Yang Tian turned around. Usually, in this kind of situation, one's reflexes would be a little slow when changing their strength. Bai Kai's calculations were very accurate. However, not everything could be calculated so easily. Yang Tian faced Bai Kai's slash and dodged to the side. Bai Kai's powerful saber slashed into the snow. However, after the saber sank into the snow, it did not come into contact with the ground under the snow. At this time, Bai Kai flipped his saber and a large pile of snow covered Yang Tian. Yang Tian's vision was blocked by the snow, and he could only retreat quickly. At this time, Bai Kai sneered and slashed at Yang Tian, who was covered in snow. Yang Tian dodged a little too slowly. Because he was a little tired and his vision was blocked, Bai Kai's saber slashed across his chest and left a long wound on his chest and abdomen. Fortunately, the wound was not deep. Otherwise, this slash would have cut open Yang Tian's chest and abdomen. The saber Bai Kai used was similar to the ancient Zamadeo. The blade and handle were very long. Using such a weapon, Bai Kai's speed was still very fast. It was almost on par with Mark's speed. Yang Tian realized that Bai Kai was also a peak level 6 martial artist. At this time, the sound of sharp weapons slashing into a human body came from behind Bai Kai, followed by shrill screams. There was something strange behind him. Bai Kai opened his eyes. He did not need to look back to guess what had happened behind him. Therefore, he turned around and fled. At this time, Mark held his blood-stained greatsword and looked coldly at the few martial artists. Just now, Mark had slashed a level 5 martial artist diagonally from his shoulder to his hip into 2. That martial artist did not die immediately and let out a painful scream. After killing one person, Mark wanted to help Yang Tian. He did not expect Bai Kai to escape without even looking back. What a despicable and cunning fellow. Mark looked at Bai Kai, who was about to disappear into the snow, and said disdainfully, "From the beginning of the fight until now, only about 10 seconds had passed." At this time, the 3 martial artists whose throats had been slashed by Yang Tian released their hand from their necks. Blood spurted out, and they fell to the ground. The remaining martial artists who wanted to besiege Yang Tian immediately turned and fled when they saw this. Mark chopped off the head of the martial artist who was still alive, making him completely shut up. Yang Tian looked at the wound on his chest and smiled bitterly. He thought to himself that it would be better to wear leather armor later on. Otherwise, there would be more wounds on his body. When he consummated his marriage with Qin Fei, she would definitely be scared out of her wits when she saw his body full of scars. Yang Tian's physical fitness was abnormal. However, after being injured, there would still be shallow scars on his body. After everyone left, Mark looked at the corpse that was still bleeding on the snow and said to Yang Tian, "Yang, is there a problem with your wound? I have needle and thread in my backpack. I can help you suture the wound." Yang Tian endured the pain and opened the wound to take a look. It was at least a centimeter deep. He nodded to Mark. Mark inserted his giant sword into the snow and took out a needle and thread from his backpack. He went to Yang Tian and sewed up Yang Tian's wound as if he was sewing clothes. Soon, Yang Tian's wound stopped bleeding. That person is despicable and cunning. If I meet this person again, I will definitely help you kill him. After helping Yang Tian sew up the wound, Mark grabbed a handful of snow and wiped the blood off his hands. "Mark, I knew you were not that kind of person." Yang Tian smiled happily. This time, Bai Kai wanted to use Mark, but the result was beyond his expectations. Not only did Yang Tian not die, he also made the dojo lose 4 level 5 martial artists. Chapter 69. The sky had darkened. Mark's unicorn, Nasha, couldn't enter the entrance of the underground cave, so Mark set up a tent for her and her young to rest outside. In the underground cave, Yang Tian listened to Mark proudly describe the process of subduing Nasha. He smiled and said, "Aren't you worried that they will run away if you leave them outside?" Mark shook his head. "They won't do that. Unlike humans, they don't keep their words." Yang Tian nodded. Sometimes, humans were indeed inferior to beasts. There was a fire burning in front of the two of them. It was very warm in the cave. After eating barbecued meat, Yang Tian and Mark soaked in the hot spring. "Yang, how did you and Qin Fei meet?" Mark asked curiously. "Xiao Fei and I met when we were in high school." "Mark, do you know? In the East, there's a kind of fate. When I first saw Xiao Fei, I knew that she would be my woman for the rest of my life." Yang Tian smiled as he recalled the days when he was in high school. After Yang Tian finished speaking, Mark said enviously, "Yang, do you know? You're not handsome or tall. You're really lucky to have Qin Fei's favor." Hee hee. When Mark said that, Yang Tian scratched his head and laughed. Mark looked at Yang Tian's blissful smile and shook his head. He changed the topic. "Yang, where do you think those missing level 9 martial artists went?" This was also what Yang Tian wanted to know. Previously, Yang Tian wanted to ask Qin Jingyang, but Qin Jingyang didn't answer. Naturally, Yang Tian didn't ask anymore. Grandpa Qin should know, but he didn't tell me. He only told me to raise my realm to level 9. Then, I'll naturally understand. Yang Tian thought for a while and shook his head. Then, are there any more powerful warriors above a grade 9 warrior? Maka muttered to himself as he looked up at the dark ceiling of the cave. Yang Tian said, "Of course there will be. We have an old saying here, there's always a mountain higher than a mountain. On the path of martial artists, there will naturally be experts who are stronger than a rank 9 martial artist. It's just that we don't know about them." While Yang Tian and Mark were chatting, the little blue dragon was also chatting with the unicorn at the entrance outside. Creak, 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 chi, chi. The little blue dragon stood in front of the mother unicorn and squeaked. At this time, the unicorn mother beast glanced at the cub beside it. It snorted with its nostrils and used its front hooves to dig at the stones on the ground. It seemed that the opinions of the dragon and the horse were not unified. The little blue dragon naturally wanted to fulfill Yang Tian's request, and the unicorn mother definitely didn't want her child to leave her side. However, communication between beasts was very simple. Seeing that the unicorn mother beast didn't agree, the little blue dragon squeaked and waved its 2 dragon claws with a sharp gaze. Although it was dark, the little blue dragon and the unicorn mother beast could clearly see each other's expressions and actions. Facing the threat of the little blue dragon, the unicorn mother beast angrily raised its front hooves and stomped on the little blue dragon. Creak, creak. After the little blue dragon dodged, it was angry. It felt that this guy didn't know what was good for him. If he didn't teach it a lesson, it wouldn't sign. After it squeaked twice, its body suddenly changed. The little blue dragon transformed again. From a foot long, it quickly became as thick as a human's arm. It floated in the air and waved its dragon claws, coldly looking at the unicorn mother beast. After transforming, the little blue dragon's body emitted an even more majestic aura. Woo-woo! When the little unicorn saw the little blue dragon's appearance, it squeaked in fear and hid behind the unicorn mother beast. When the unicorn mother beast saw the little blue dragon's appearance, it was also very afraid. After all, it was only a level 5 beast, and the little blue dragon's realm had long surpassed that of a level 7 beast. T-sich. But beasts were the same as humans. They would also protect their children. For this reason, they could resist the fear in their hearts. The unicorn mother beast panted heavily and used its front hooves to dig at the rocks on the ground. Just like before, it was clear that it didn't agree. Creak, creak. The little blue dragon once again let out a threatening cry. Its body once again became bigger. Its huge body even tore the tent apart. The dragon and the two beasts were exposed to the wind and snow. At this time, the little blue dragon's body became as thick as a human's waist and as long as 10 meters. When it opened its mouth, it could swallow the baby unicorn mother beast in one gulp. The aura that it emitted was even more majestic. The unicorn mother beast couldn't withstand the pressure. It let out a cry, folded its wings, and knelt down. This was a sign of submission. Roar! The little blue dragon was so proud that it let out a dragon's roar, causing the surrounding snowflakes to tremble. Yang Tian and Mark, who were soaking in the hot spring, opened their eyes wide when they heard the horse's cry and the dragon's roar. Yang Tian didn't expect that the little blue dragon and the unicorn mother beast would cause such a huge commotion. Could it be that the negotiation between the dragon and the beast had failed and they had already started fighting? As for Mark, he was very worried about his mount. He immediately stood up, put on his pants, and walked out with his greatsword. Yang Tian also came out of the pool. He dried himself, put on his clothes, and walked out with his blade. He saw that Mark's tent had been destroyed. The two unicorns, one big and one small, were kneeling on the snow, shivering. They looked very pitiful. Mark squatted next to the unicorn mother beast and kept comforting it. After a long while, the two unicorns finally calmed down. At this time, Mark stood up and said to Yang Tian, it's too cold outside. We have to let Nasha in. Yang Tian nodded. After all, this was Yang Tian's residence. If he wanted to make the entrance bigger, he would need Yang Tian's permission. Seeing that Yang Tian had agreed, Mark held his sword with both hands and kept on slashing at the mountain rocks at the entrance. In less than half an hour, he had opened up an entrance that could allow the unicorn mother beast to enter. Mark led the two unicorns into the underground cave. Yang Tian didn't enter immediately. Instead, he stood guard at the entrance. A few minutes later, the little blue dragon appeared and jumped onto Yang Tian's shoulder, letting out a squeak. It's a deal? That's great. After understanding the little blue dragon's dragon language, Yang Tian laughed excitedly. When the little blue dragon left to hunt other exotic beasts, Yang Tian returned to the underground cave. Mark cherished his two unicorns very much. Outside, the two unicorns were drenched in snow. Now that the snow had melted, the unicorn mother beast was completely wet. Mark took out a towel from his backpack and wiped the unicorn mother beast's body. The little unicorn mother beast, who was afraid of the cold, was lying beside the fire to warm herself. Mark, I really want this cub. Xiao Fei will love it very much. Yang Tian squatted beside the focus mark and said with a smile. However, Mark said, even if I agree, Nasha won't agree, right? Nasha? Mark said as he patted the unicorn mother beast's neck. Previously, the unicorn mother beast would snort and look unruly. But now, it was looking at the cub lying beside the fire with a pitiful gaze. Mark, did you see that? Your Nasha agreed. Yang Tian chuckled. Mark understood even more than Yang Tian. He saw the unicorn mother beast's appearance and naturally knew that it had agreed. Chapter 70. 3 days later. Pung pung. In the snow, two figures were entangled with each other, emitting the dull sound of weapons clashing. After a long time, the two separated. Yang Tian was calm and composed, while Mark was panting slightly. "Yang, your endurance is amazing," Mark exclaimed as he propped his great sword on the ground. Yang had been sparring for half a day and had used at least 70 to 80% of his strength. Mark was almost unable to take it after waving his weapon for such a long time. On the other hand, Yang Tian was still as energetic as ever. In this sparring session, Mark was completely convinced by Yang Tian, because even if Yang Tian couldn't defeat him in a short period of time, he could exhaust him to death as long as he could. What Ma Ke did not know was that when Yang Tian defeated Feng De, it was because Yang Tian had exhausted Feng De. It was like running a marathon. The runner who ran the fastest might not necessarily be the first to reach the finish line. The two sat casually on the snow and rested. The weather today was very good. The snow had stopped falling and the sun was shining in the sky. After basking in the sun for a while, Yang Tian felt lazy. He felt that lying down on the dry grass and taking a nap would be a wonderful thing. But in the forest, lying down and sleeping casually was undoubtedly courting death. Mark looked at Yang Tian and said, "Yang, now, are we leaving this place? The people who want to kill you should be here soon." Yang Tian nodded and smiled. "The underground cave is a good place. I can soak in a hot spring for a while every day. I really don't want to leave." Mark shook his head and whistled. The female unicorn that was looking for food in the forest not far away ran out with her cub. The female unicorn came to Mark. The cub, on the other hand, went into Yang Tian's arms and seemed to be very close to Yang Tian. "Mark, let's go. Let's leave this place. There's a 7th level exotic beast. Are you interested?" Yang Tian touched the little unicorn in his arms, stood up, and smiled at Mark. "Of course. I am in need of a 7th rank beast core." Ma Ke stood up and said excitedly. He was eager to give it a try. Ma Ke was at the pinnacle of rank 6 and needed a rank 7 beast core to raise his rank. It was naturally the little blue dragon's credit that they were able to find a level 7 exotic beast. The little blue dragon rested in the underground cave during the day and went out at night to investigate the situation of the surrounding exotic beasts. He knew exactly where and what level the exotic beasts were. Yang Tian smiled and said, "But before that, you have to help me get rid of a level 6 exotic beast." "Okay." Mark nodded without hesitation. The two of them immediately returned to the underground cavern, packed up their equipment, and set off immediately. Yang Tian reckoned that he wouldn't be able to stay in this forest for much longer. As long as he could defeat a level 7 martialist, he would immediately return to Sky Majestic City and discuss the marriage with Xiao Fei. Yang Tian had just turned 19, and Qin Fei was only 18. Before the outbreak of the YS virus, the two of them hadn't reached the legal age to get married. However, it was different now. There were no such laws and regulations. As long as both parties were physically mature, they could get married and have children at any time. That was because the physiques of the human race had been strengthened. Yang Tian and Ma Ke's departure was naturally noticed by some of the martialists who had been monitoring them from afar. Until now, there were still many martialists who hadn't given up on Yang Tian. Bai Kai was one of them. When he found out that Yang Tian and Ma Ke had left, Bai Kai immediately reported it to his superiors through the martialist assistive device. 3 days later. "Yang, this is a pack of wolves. Look at their numbers. There are at least a few hundred of them. In this pack of wolves, low-level black-backed wolves only make up 60% of the pack. The rest are high-level level 1 silver-toothed wolves, level 2 red-toothed wolves, level 3 green-toothed wolves, level 4 green-toothed wolves, level 5 purple-toothed wolves." Yang Tian and Ma Ke were currently hiding behind a large rock. Ma Ke was holding a pair of binoculars and looking at the situation in the valley below. As he moved the binoculars, he muttered to himself. Although there were only a few hundred wolves in this pack, most of them were high-level wolves. The ordinary wolves in the periphery couldn't compare to them. The leader of this pack of wolves was a level 6 green-furred wolf. After Maka finished speaking, he put down the binoculars. Yang Tian chuckled and said, "After we get rid of this pack of wolves, we'll be rich. Other than the level 6 beast cores, we'll split the rest equally. How about that?" Maka nodded, but looked at Yang Tian strangely. He asked, "This place is very hidden. How did you find it?" Yang Tian smiled and said, "I've been in this forest for more than half a year. Of course, I'm familiar with the surroundings." Maka nodded doubtfully. He didn't quite believe it. The place they were in now was like a small basin, surrounded by broken walls and cliffs. They had to pass through several miles of cliff crevices that were only 2 to 3 meters wide to reach this place. The path was very difficult to walk on. When they came here, Maka had to hold his huge sword and lead the way in front. His hand was sore from swinging. After they passed through the narrow crevice, their eyes lit up as if they had come to another world. In the forest, level 1 to level 4 exotic beasts were very common. As for level 5 and above, they would find a hidden place to hide, making it very difficult to find them. Sometimes they had to rely on luck. Yang Tian saw Maka's doubtful look but didn't care. He said, "This place is actually not big. There are only 2 entrances. Let's seal this entrance, then rush over and seal the entrance on the other side. This pack of wolves will be trapped here for us to kill. There are only a few hundred of them. We can get rid of them in half a day, right?" Maka thought for a while and nodded. Yang Tian smiled and pointed to the cliff crevice on the other side. "I'll guard here. You go there." Maka said straightforwardly, "Okay, help me look after Nasha and her daughter. I'm going." After Maka finished speaking, he lifted his huge sword and stepped on a rock. He shot out like a bolt of lightning and directly rushed to the entrance a few hundred meters ahead. This valley was structured like a patio. The trees in the valley were sparse, and Yang Tian was looking down from above. He could see the situation in front clearly. Awa. Maka's movement alarmed the pack of wolves. Some of the wolves howled and sounded the alarm. The entire pack of wolves was in chaos for a moment. Puff! Puff! Several blackback wolves rushed toward Mako. Mako swung his huge sword and cut several blackback wolves that were pouncing at him in half. Mako didn't stop and continued to rush forward, killing all the wolves along the way. In less than 5 minutes, he was guarding the cliff crevice a few hundred meters ahead. Huff! At this moment, Yang Tian and Mako both let out a long breath at the same time. Half of the plan to close the door and kill the wolves had finally been realized. At this moment, the little blue dragon appeared. It squatted beside Yang Tian and cried out excitedly. Yang Tian touched the little blue dragon's fat body and said with a smile, "Good job. If you hadn't killed the wolf on guard, we wouldn't have been able to come here without being discovered by the wolves. If we can kill this pack of wolves this time, we'll be rich." Squeak, squeak. The little blue dragon cried out proudly. Awa! In order to reduce the pressure on Mako, Yang Tian imitated a wolf's howl after he finished speaking. His howl naturally attracted the attention of the wolves. At this moment, a portion of the wolves that were pouncing on Mako suddenly split off and rushed toward Yang Tian. Chapter 71. Puff, puff, puff. Whoa! In the valley, the sound of sharp weapons piercing into bodies and the howling of wolves could be heard. Yang Tian and Mark waved the weapons in their hands and killed the blackback wolves and silver-toothed wolves that were pouncing on them. These 2 types of wolves were of the lowest status in the pack. Naturally, they would be used as cannon fodder. As for the other high-level wolves, they were cunning enough to stay behind and command their subordinates to attack Yang Tian and Mark. Normal blackback wolves and level 1 silver-toothed wolves were the most numerous. They accounted for more than 80% of the wolves in the pack. There were more than 500 of them. Although there were many of them, they could not withstand the slaughter of Yang Tian and Mark. After more than an hour, in front of Yang Tian and Mark, the wolf corpses were piled up like a small hill. Both of their clothes were soaked in wolf blood. The wolf corpses in front of Yang Tian were all intact. Most of the wounds on these wolves were on their necks and waists. But it was different for Mark. The wolves that he had killed were all in pieces. The wolf's flesh and guts were all over the ground. It was a disgusting sight. In more than an hour, Yang Tian had killed more than 200 wolves. Mark had also killed about the same number. The low-level wolves were almost all killed. The two of them stood guard at the entrance of the wolf den. Not a single wolf was let out. Whoa! All of a sudden, a particularly loud wolf howl rang out. The wolves that were attacking Yang Tian and Mark immediately retreated. At this time, a huge green-furred wolf appeared in front of Yang Tian and Mark's eyes. This green-furred wolf was very large. Not counting its tail, its body was 4 meters long and 2 meters tall. It was even bigger than an elephant. In the wolf pack, there were not many low-level wolves left. There were only about 100 of them. The rest were all level 2 and above wolves. At this time, they were all surrounding the green-furred wolf and looking in the direction of Yang Tian and Mark. Phew! The green-furred wolf finally appeared. Yang Tian smiled and let out a long breath. On the other side, Mark placed his great sword on the ground and rested for a short period of time. After such a small battle, Mark was even more exhausted than Yang Tian. He did not have Yang Tian's abnormal endurance. Roar! At this moment, the green-furred wolf howled into the sky. More than 200 wolves surrounding it all rushed towards Mark. How cunning! Yang Tian thought with a cold smile. The green-furred wolf did this because it wanted either Yang Tian or Mark to open up an exit. If something went wrong, it could take the opportunity to escape. Wolves were different from other mutated beasts. If they couldn't defeat their enemies, they would try to escape. With so many high-ranking wolves attacking Mark at the same time, Mark wouldn't be able to hold on for long. If Yang Tian went to rescue Mark now, some of the wolves could take the opportunity to escape. The green-furred wolf was smart, but it was dreaming. Yang Tian turned around and said to the little blue dragon, "Guard this place well. Don't let a single wolf pass through here." Squeak, squeak. The little blue dragon promised to Yang Tian. Yang Tian looked at the blood-stained sword in his hand and rushed towards the pack of wolves. Puff, puff. In this strange little valley, the sound of fighting could be heard again, mixed with the howling of wolves. After Yang Tian and Mark's slaughter, there were only about 200 wolves left in the pack. Most of them were high-ranking mutated wolves. Needless to say, there were level 1 silver-toothed wolves. Those level 2 red-toothed wolves, level 3 green-toothed wolves, level 4 green-toothed wolves. To Yang Tian and Mark, these high-ranking mutated wolves were like beast cores, and beast cores represented a large amount of martial coins. With this motivation, Yang Tian and Mark were even more excited than before. In this danger zone, it was very difficult to find high-ranking mutated beasts gathered together. This pack of wolves was like a treasure to Yang Tian and Mark. After killing all the wolves, it wouldn't be a problem to obtain dozens of beast cores. At this moment, a level 3 green-toothed wolf pounced towards Yang Tian. This green-toothed wolf was the size of a calf. It opened its mouth and bit towards Yang Tian's head. Even a level 6 martial artist would be finished if he was bitten by it. Yang Tian's speed was very fast. He kicked a level 2 red-toothed wolf away. The sword in his hand swung rapidly, creating dozens of white lines in an instant. Puff, puff. In the blink of an eye, the green-toothed wolf in the air was cut into pieces by Yang Tian's sword and fell to the ground. This kind of situation kept happening in the short span of a few minutes. All the wolves attacked Mark. However, with Yang Tian's help, the pressure on Mark was reduced by a lot. Soon, Yang Tian and Mark met up. At this moment, the level 6 green-furred wolf in the distance turned and ran. It ran towards the entrance that Yang Tian and Mark came from. The entrance was just big enough for the green-furred wolf to pass through. Although this level 6 green-furred wolf was huge in size, it was very agile. In the blink of an eye, it rushed into the entrance and disappeared. Since their leader had run away, the rest of the wolves lost their will to fight. They all turned and ran, following the green-furred wolf. Mark let out a long breath and wiped the wolf blood off his face. He said helplessly, "This wolf is too cunning. We still couldn't stop it." Although Yang Tian knew the result, he still pretended not to know and nodded. This time, Yang Tian and Mark managed to kill over 100 mutated wolves. Among the mutated wolves that were killed by the wolves, there were many level 2 red-toothed wolves and level 3 green-toothed wolves. There were also quite a number of level 4 green-toothed wolves. Mark was preparing to clean up the battlefield and look for beast cores when suddenly a wolf howl could be heard. The green-furred wolf that had run away had returned. Seeing this, Mark couldn't help but widen his eyes. He didn't understand what was going on. Apart from the green-furred wolf that had run away, the 100 or so wolves that had followed behind it also ran back. All of the wolves had panicked expressions in their eyes. The green-furred wolf led the 100 or so remaining wolves and rushed towards Yang Tian and company. Facing the gigantic green-furred wolf, Mark said to Yang Tian, "I'll take care of this big guy. Yang, you guard the entrance." Yang Tian smiled and nodded. Mark raised his greatsword and rushed towards the green-furred wolf. Perhaps it was scared by the little blue dragon, but the green-furred wolf ignored Mark, who was coming towards it. Just as it was about to hit Mark, it suddenly twisted its body and wanted to brush past Mark. Perhaps Mark had already expected this to happen. He raised the greatsword behind him and slashed at one of the green-furred wolf's hind legs. The green-furred wolf's legs were very thick. Mark's slash didn't cut off its leg, but its hind legs went soft. Due to its rush, it fell to the ground and flipped over. Punk! The green-furred wolf's huge body sent a huge rock flying. At this moment, Mark had already jumped up high. He held his greatsword with both hands and slashed at the green-furred wolf's head. Although one of its legs was injured, the green-furred wolf's movements were extremely fast. It stood up from the ground in the blink of an eye. Chapter 72. The level 6 green-furred wolf knew that it could not escape, so it turned around and glared at Ma Ku. Ma Ku smiled coldly and raised his giant sword. With a kick, he jumped up high and slashed at the green-furred wolf's head. The green-furred wolf heard the whistling sound from the friction between the giant's sword and the air. It knew how powerful this attack was, so it jumped up and dodged. Ma Ku's blade missed its target, so he raised his sword and stabbed it again. His speed was extremely fast, and the tip of the sword pierced towards the abdomen of the green-furred wolf. The green-furred wolf turned its head and opened its mouth, biting onto the sword. With a powerful swing, Ma Ku was sent flying with his sword. The green-furred wolf's speed was equivalent to a peak level 6 martial artist. Ma Ku twisted his waist in the air and landed on the ground. He stepped on a rock and held his sword with both hands and slashed at the green-furred wolf again. At this time, the hundreds of wolves behind the green-furred wolf did not help when they saw that their leader was trapped. Instead, they all ran toward the exit that was guarded by Yang Tian in a panic. The ones that ran the fastest were the 3 level 5 purple-fanged wolves. If they were at the outer perimeter of the danger zone, these 3 purple-fanged wolves would be the leaders of the pack. They were only one size smaller than a level 6 green-furred wolf. To humans, they could be considered as giant beasts. Facing the 3 giant beasts, Yang Tian squinted his eyes and focused. The movements of the 3 purple-fanged wolves became slower in his eyes. To Yang Tian, these 3 purple-fanged wolves were equivalent to 3 level 5 beast cores. If he let even one of them escape, it would be a huge loss. The 3 purple-fanged wolves did not have the same speed. Facing the first purple-fanged wolf, Yang Tian waved the tang sword in his hand. Suddenly, he squatted down and slashed at one of the front legs of the first purple-fanged wolf. Next, Yang Tian jumped up and flew away. The sword in his hand turned into a white light and slashed at the neck of the second purple-fanged wolf. At this time, the third purple-fanged wolf had arrived. Before Yang Tian landed on the ground, he threw the sword in his hand. The saber that Yang Tian threw out with all his might stabbed into the waist of the third purple-toothed wolf. Yang Tian's series of actions were very fast. They were completed within 2 seconds. After throwing out the knife in his hand, Yang Tian became unarmed. When he landed, an LV4 green-toothed wolf pounced at him. Yang Tian raised his fist and punched the head of the green-toothed wolf. Bang! Yang Tian's arm was infused with the power of the Dragon Ball. When this punch landed on the forehead of the green-toothed wolf, it directly sent the 200 to 300 gene green-toothed wolf flying. At this moment, the purple-fanged wolf, whose front leg was cut by Yang Tian, pounced on Yang Tian angrily. Yang Tian reached for his waist and pulled out 2 alloy daggers. Facing the incoming purple-fanged wolf, he squatted slightly and dodged the wolf's front claws. He raised his left hand, and the dagger slashed across the abdomen of the LV-5 purple-fanged wolf, making a sound. When the purple-fanged wolf fell to the ground, its internal organs flowed out from the wound on its abdomen. The purple-fanged wolf let out a painful howl and fell to the ground, struggling before its death. Yang Tian was very lucky. The purple-fanged wolf that was stabbed in the waist by Yang Tian had also fallen to the ground. It was obvious that Yang Tian's knife had injured its vital parts. But at this moment, Yang Tian did not have the chance to retrieve the knife at all. The remaining purple-fanged wolf that had its neck slit also pounced on him. Not only that, but at this time, a large number of wolves had arrived. Yang Tian had to immediately turn around and retreat, blocking the only escape route for the wolves. The purple-fanged wolf that was pouncing on Yang Tian missed. After it landed, its 2 hind legs bounced again, opened its mouth, and pounced on Yang Tian. Yang Tian had just stabilized his body. When he reacted, the purple-fanged wolf's 2 huge front claws were already on his shoulders. A fishy smell came from the purple-fanged wolf's mouth. In just a moment, the purple-fanged wolf's front claws had already pierced through the skin on Yang Tian's shoulder. The curved claws retracted and locked onto Yang Tian's flesh. Yang Tian fell back with the force of the purple-fanged wolf's attack. He held the dagger tightly with both hands and stabbed it into the purple-fanged wolf's neck. At this time, Yang Tian's back had already touched the ground. At the same time, he lifted his leg and kicked the purple-fanged wolf's abdomen. With the force of his back, he kicked the heavy purple-fanged wolf into the air. Mark, who was not far away, separated from the green-furred wolf again. When Yang Tian was fighting with the 3 purple-fanged wolves, Mark was also fighting with the green-furred wolf for a few rounds. At this time, they were evenly matched. Mark's chest was badly scratched by the green-furred wolf's claws, and there were many wounds on the green-furred wolf's body. At this time, the one who was under the most pressure was not Mark, but Yang Tian, who was guarding the exit. This was because the wolves wanted to rush out from the exit that Yang Tian was guarding. Only then would they have a chance to survive. If they did not unite now, they would be wiped out soon. These wolves were very smart and realized this point. After killing the 3 strongest level 5 purple-fanged wolves, Yang Tian was much more relaxed. With his extreme speed, he kept swinging the dagger in his hand. Almost every slash was able to kill a wolf. Oh, in this strange valley, the sound of slashing and howling could be heard constantly. The howling of the injured wolves could be heard. More than 10 minutes later. Suddenly, Mark shouted, followed by 2 muffled sounds of pew and p. When Yang Tian heard the sound, he glanced at Mark. He saw that Mark had already fought with the level 6 green-furred wolf. The huge green-furred wolf's neck had a huge sword pierced through it, and it had already fallen to the ground. Mark was also sent flying by the green-furred wolf and crashed into a mountain rock. Pung pung. Puff puff. Yang Tian only glanced at it. He did not have the time to check on Mark's injuries. He kicked away the red-fanged wolves that were pouncing at him. He swung his dagger and killed 2 silver-fanged wolves and a level 3 green-furred wolf. After about half an hour of fighting, there were not many wolves left. Awoo! Awoo! Under Yang Tian's slaughter, there were still over 20 wolves left. Suddenly, a rank 3 green-toothed wolf howled a few times before it turned around and fled. The other wolves also stopped attacking Yang Tian and followed this level 3 green-furred wolf. Phew! Yang Tian sat on the ground and let out a long breath. Even if he had the power of the Dragon Ball, he still felt very tired at this time. The remaining 20 or so wolves ran behind a huge rock and soon disappeared. Yang Tian did not need to look to know that there was a huge cave behind the huge rock. There were wolf cubs and female wolves in there. Mark's injuries were not serious. After lying on the ground for a while, he got up. The two of them looked at each other from dozens of meters away and laughed. After more than 10 minutes, the two of them had rested enough and came to the back of the huge rock in the valley. There was indeed a huge cave behind the huge rock. The remaining 20 or so wolves were guarding the entrance of the cave under the leadership of a level 3 green-furred wolf. Yang Tian and Mark held their blades and walked toward the wolves. The cave was about 10 meters in diameter. It was dark inside and seemed very deep. Facing the incoming Yang Tian and Mark, the 20 over wolves slowly retreated. Chapter 73. Yang Tian and Mark moved forward slowly. They were about 2 meters away from each other, which was enough to ensure that not a single wolf could escape from the cave. The deeper they went, the darker the light became. There were many green dots of light, which were the eyes of the wolves. Woo-woo! At this moment, a wolf cub jumped out from the cave. It bared its teeth and looked at Yang Tian and Mark, letting out a threatening cry. As soon as the young wolf appeared, a female wolf ran over and chased the young wolf away. At this moment, the level 3 green-toothed wolf that was leading the pack suddenly knelt on the ground. It lowered its head and let out a whimper. It was obviously begging for mercy. When the green-toothed wolf knelt down, the other wolves behind it also knelt down. At this moment, a few pregnant female wolves walked out from the darkness. They looked at Yang Tian and Mark pitifully. Mark and Yang Tian frowned at the same time. Yang Tian glanced at the mutated wolves that were usually ferocious, but were now more obedient than dogs. He sighed and turned his head to Mark, saying, "Let them go. If we kill these wolves that are capable of fighting, the wolf cubs inside won't be able to survive." Mark thought for a moment and said, "But these are all mutated beasts. They're the enemies of mankind. If we don't kill all the mutated beasts, mankind won't be able to live a peaceful life." Yang Tian shook his head and said, "We can't kill all the mutated beasts. Moreover, without the mutated beasts, there won't be any martial artists." "All right." Mark nodded his head. The two of them looked at the wolves and slowly retreated. Soon, they were out of the cave. Next, it was time to reap the rewards. Mark cut open the level 6 green-furred wolf's head with his giant sword and took out a dark blue level 6 heart core. According to their agreement, Mark gave the level 6 heart core to Yang Tian. If this level 6 heart core was sold, Yang Tian would receive 2 billion martial coins. Of course, he wasn't going to sell this beast core. He was going to consume it himself. The last time he swallowed a level 5 beast core, the dragon orb in his body changed and turned his hands into dragon claws. This time, after swallowing a level 6 beast core, he did not know what would happen. He could only ask the little blue dragon when the time came. Apart from this grade 6 beast core, the rest of the beast cores were divided equally between the two of them. After spending most of the day, the two of them continuously swung their swords and split open the heads of all the high-leveled wolf corpses. 31 Class 1 beast cores, 20 Class 2 beast cores, 15 Class 3 beast cores, 12 Class 4 beast cores, and 4 Class 5 beast cores. Maka counted all the beast cores and said with a smile. Yang Tian happily nodded his head. This was the first time he had obtained so many beast cores in one go since he entered the forest. It was time to distribute the beast cores. If there were an odd number of beast cores of a certain grade, Maku would get one less. Maka told Yang Tian that this was because Yang Tian was the one who found this place. After distributing the beast cores, Yang Tian received 16 Class 1 beast cores, 10 Class 2 beast cores, 8 Class 3 beast cores, 6 Class 4 beast cores, and 2 Class 5 beast cores. In total, there were 42 beast cores. This was 1/3 more than what they had expected. A Class 1 beast core was worth 1 million martial coins. A Class 2 beast core was worth 5 million martial coins. A Class 3 beast core was worth 10 million martial coins. A Class 4 beast core was worth 50 million martial coins. A Class 5 beast core was worth 500 million martial coins, and a Class 6 beast core was worth 2 billion martial coins. Based on this calculation, Yang Tian's income this time was more than 3 billion martial coins. For martial artists, as long as they were willing to take risks, they could earn money quickly. Of course, martial artists spent a lot of money as well. This was because they had to purchase all kinds of equipment. Every time they advanced to a higher level, they had to purchase a corresponding level of combat skills. Some combat skills were not much cheaper than beast cores of the same level. Yang Tian and Ma couldn't care about the wolf carcasses in the valley. After the two of them divided the beast cores, they walked out from the entrance they came in from. After leaving the patio-like valley, Ma Ke thought of this question and asked Yang Tian, "Yang, why did the escaped wolf come back after leaving this place?" Yang Tian didn't want to tell Ma Ke about the little blue dragon. He could only shake his head and say, "I wanted to ask you that too." Ma Ke laughed when he heard Yang Tian's words. However, he quickly furrowed his brows, as if he had thought of something. He asked worriedly, "Is there an even higher level exotic beast here?" After Ma Ke finished speaking, he furrowed his brows and scanned his surroundings with a cautious expression. Martial artists could sense high-level exotic beasts from a distance. After walking for a while, Ma Ke didn't discover anything and relaxed. Phew! After exiting the narrow entrance, the mother unicorn suddenly landed. It was biting on the little unicorn's mane. After landing on the ground, he loosened his grip and put the little unicorn down. The little unicorn was obviously very uncomfortable being bitten by the mother unicorn. After being released by the mother unicorn, it shook its body and ran to Yang Tian's side. It rubbed its head against Yang Tian's leg, appearing very intimate. When Ma Ke saw this, he smiled and said, "Yang, I didn't expect this little guy to be so intimate with you. How did you do it?" Yang Tian shrugged and smiled. "I don't know either." Yang Tian indeed didn't know the reason, but he guessed that it was because he had the Dragon Balls. Ma Ke said that unicorns and dragons were distant relatives. Horses and dragons were relatives? Yang Tian didn't know. He only saw the white dragon turn into a horse and journey to the west. After meeting up with the two unicorns, Yang Tian and Ma Ke found a small stream formed by melted snow. They took turns to take a cold shower and changed into clean clothes. After the battle with the wolf pack, both of them were covered in blood. Not only were they uncomfortable, but there was also a heavy smell of blood on their bodies. They probably couldn't wash their old clothes properly and threw them away. The sky was going to be dark soon. The two found a flat area and unfolded the tarp. They lit a bonfire and took out their dry rations to eat. Yang Tian looked at the sky. He could see a few bright stars through the branches and leaves of the trees. He couldn't help but miss home. He said, "Ma Ke, according to our current speed, we'll leave at 6 in the morning tomorrow. We'll meet the rank 7 exotic beast around 3 in the afternoon. After getting the rank 7 beast core, will you continue to stay here or return to Hero City?" Ma Ke was chewing on a piece of beef jerky. After swallowing it, he wiped his mouth and smiled. "Of course I'll return to Hero City. With Nasha, I'll be able to return to Hero City soon and raise my cultivation to rank 7. Yang, at that time, I'll look for you to fight. I'll only feel better after defeating you." Yang Tian couldn't help but smile when he heard Ma Ke's words. "All right, I'll wait for you, but I'll definitely be a rank 7 fighter by then. I'll still beat you." After Yang Tian said that, Ma Ke looked at Yang Tian unconvinced and said, "You'll know after we fight." After resting for a night, the two woke up early. They packed up their things and ate some dry rations before continuing their journey. The road ahead was very difficult to walk on, but with the help of Nasha, their speed was much faster than Yang Tian imagined. If they were to walk, they would have to cross many cliffs. But with Nasha, she could carry Yang Tian and Ma Ke and fly over them twice. At noon, the two arrived at their destination. Ma Ke took out his binoculars and observed the situation ahead. Chapter 74. Why do high-level exotic beasts always stay in valleys? Ma Ke muttered to himself as he looked at the situation ahead through his binoculars. Yang Tian smiled, because valleys are the most hidden places among the mountains. It was already the end of January. The snow on the mountains had already started to melt. Although the sun was warm in the sky, the ground temperature was very low. The hibernating exotic beasts hadn't woken up yet. The exotic beast Yang Tian brought Maka here to hunt was a level 7 green armored bear. Bears were furry animals, but the level 7 green armored bear was covered in green scales, except for its head and tail. Its skin was rough and thick to begin with, and with the addition of the scales, its defense was even more shocking. In order to kill the level 7 green armored bear, one had to find its weakness and attack it. It's there, right? Maka put down his binoculars and pointed at a dense forest in the valley ahead. Yang Tian nodded. The structure of this valley was very strange. From Yang Tian's point of view, the valley ahead, in addition to the snow-covered mountain peaks on both sides, looked like a woman's crotch, and the mountain peaks on both sides were like snow-white thighs. The forest in the middle of the valley, on the other hand, looked like something. Such a strange scenery would only appear during winter when it was snowing heavily. If it weren't for exotic beasts running rampant here, this place would surely be a lively tourist attraction during winter. The valley ahead wasn't far from where Yang Tian's group was currently. If they walked, they would reach it in at most half an hour. Maka had the female unicorn stay here, then walk down the slope with Yang Tian, arriving between the two mountain peaks. Yang, do you know? There's always a very strange feeling when walking between these two mountain peaks, Maka said to Yang Tian with a smile after walking for a while. Yang Tian knew what Maka meant and couldn't help but smile. This place was the territory of the level 7 green armored bear. Not a single low-level exotic beast could be seen nearby, making it seem very quiet. As Yang Tian's group walked, their ears were filled with the creaking sounds of their footsteps. After walking for more than 10 minutes, the trees in front of them became sparse, and the sound of water splashing could be heard. Yang Tian and Mark soon saw a clear stream. Following the stream, they arrived in front of a dense forest about 10 minutes later. Yang Tian and Mark both felt a strange aura coming from the forest in front of them. Roar! At this moment, the roar of a beast came from the forest ahead. Have we been discovered? Mark was puzzled. Yang Tian looked ahead. Then he shook his head and said, "It's too far away. It's impossible. Something must have happened. Let's go and take a look." After that, Yang Tian and Mark sped up. Walking to the edge of the forest, the two had already unsheathed their swords and sabers. They took off their backpacks and held them in their hands, ready to fight at any time. Roar! At this moment, another beast roar came from the forest. This cry was much louder than the previous one. Two exotic beasts. Yang Tian and Mark thought of this at the same time. They couldn't help but furrow their brows and look at each other. Yang, we have to be careful. If there are two level 7 exotic beasts. Mark didn't finish his sentence. Yang Tian understood what Mark meant. If they encountered two level 7 exotic beasts, it would be troublesome. Yang Tian nodded. The two entered the forest and slowly walked through the trees, trying not to make too much noise with their footsteps, so as not to alarm the exotic beasts inside. Roar, roar. At this moment, two clearly different cries rang out one after the other. Then, with a loud boom, a large tree in front of them fell to the ground. The two exotic beasts seemed to be fighting. This thought suddenly appeared in Yang Tian and Mark's minds. The two bent their bodies and slowed down, walking towards the source of the roars. This forest didn't look very big from the outside, but when they really went in, they realized how big it was. Yang Tian and Mark walked for more than 10 minutes before they finally saw the two exotic beasts. Two green armored bears. Yang Tian opened his eyes wide in shock when he saw the two green armored bears the size of small hills. A level 5 silverback bear was already several meters tall, like a small hill. However, compared to these two green armored bears, a level 5 silverback bear was like a child compared to an adult. If these two bears stood upright, they would be at least 7 or 8 meters tall. They were literally two small hills. If Yang Tian and Mark stood in front of them, they would probably be babies compared to adults. These were real giant bears. The two green armor bears were just like their names. Other than their heads, the rest of their bodies were covered in hard green scales. These green scales had a completely different structure from the scales of fish. To be honest, they were actually a type of hard hair. It was just that each strand of hair was very thick, and the tips of the hairs were no longer pointed but flat. Countless of these seemingly hard hairs lined up together to form a kind of armor. The news that the little blue dragon told Yang Tian was that there was a level 7 green armored bear here. He didn't expect there to be 2 of them now. This wasn't because the little blue dragon was lying to Yang Tian, but because these 2 level 7 green armored bears were a male and a female. One lived here, while the other probably came here from somewhere else. High-level exotic beasts could also reproduce. What was different from ordinary exotic beasts was that although the cubs of high-level exotic beasts weren't much different from ordinary exotic beasts when they were born, their growth rate was very fast. They could grow into high-level exotic beasts in a very short period of time. Humans had the saying of competing with their fathers, and it was the same for exotic beasts. The male and female green armored bears weren't fighting. They looked like they were playing. Every move of these 2 behemoths was very important. Even if they were playing, it would cause a huge commotion. Pong! At this moment, the female bear that was pushed to the ground by the male bear turned over and crashed into a pine tree that was as thick as a person's waist, directly breaking the tree. Yang Tian and Mark were secretly shocked when they saw this. Different exotic beasts at the same level had different strength and speed. These 2 level 7 green armored bears were clearly ranked at the top among level 7 exotic beasts. Yang Tian and Mark didn't move for a while. They only communicated with their eyes, not daring to make sound. The 2 giant bears played for a while, flattening the surrounding ground. After they were done playing, the female bear lay on the ground, while the male bear came behind the female bear and stood up, lying on the female bear's back. Spring had arrived, and the exotic beast had entered their mating season. Yang Tian and Mark looked at each other and nodded at the same time. It was time to get rid of these 2 level 7 green armored bears. The 2 of them planned to deal with one each and lure them away. The 2 giant bears were enjoying themselves to the fullest, as if they didn't hear the commotion nearby. Or if they did, they wouldn't care. Chapter 75. When they were still dozens of meters away, Yang Tian and Mark put down their backpacks and quickly ran through the forest. The commotion caused by the 2 of them had alerted the 2 giant beasts. Roar! The male bear turned its head and looked at the 2 of them. It roared into the sky and jumped down from the female bear's back. At this moment, Yang Tian and Mark had already arrived in front of them. To these 2 giant beasts, Yang Tian and Mark were like tiny little things. The male bear straightened its body and raised its 2 giant claws, ready to slap at Yang Tian and Mark. Mark raised his head and saw a red thing on the male bear's crotch. He swung his sword, and with a poof, the thing that was even thicker than an adult's arm was cut off by Mark. Mark, this guy is too vicious, Yang Tian thought to himself. Perhaps because Mark's sword was too fast, the male bear did not seem to notice it and continued to slap at them with its claws. Yang Tian and Mark quickly jumped off the ground and dodged. Bang! The male bear's claw hit the ground and caused the ground to shake. If the 2 of them were hit, they would definitely be turned into meat paste. Roar! Roar! At this time, the male bear seemed to have felt the pain. It rolled on the ground and kept on howling in pain as it crushed trees that were as thick as a person's waist. Yang Tian and Mark had already hidden far away and watched everything with their eyes wide open. Any male would know that that was the weakest part. Seeing the male bear in pain, Yang Tian couldn't help but clamp his legs together. He remembered the time when he was hunting a level 5 silverback bear with Xiao Fei and the others. Li Xian had shot an arrow at the silverback bear's egg. Roar! At this time, the female bear was enraged. With a roar, it pounced at Yang Tian and the others. With a leap, it crossed a distance of more than 30 meters, and its huge body came crashing at Yang Tian and Mark. Yang Tian dodged to the left and Mark to the right. They dodged at the same time and hid behind a tree. Boom! The female bear's body fell to the ground with a deafening sound, shaking the snow off the trees. At this moment, the male bear, who had struggled in pain for a short while, got up and pounced at the 2. Yang Tian and Mark looked at each other from more than 10 meters away. Then, they turned around and carried out their previous plan. The two of them each took on a bear. Mark flashed out and was immediately seen by the male bear. The male bear's eyes flashed with anger and ferocity, and two white streams of air came out of his nostrils. At this moment, Yang Tian saw blood flowing out of the male bear like a fountain. When Mark saw that Gong Xiong had noticed him, he turned around and ran. He ran towards the mountain peak on the right, which was the one that looked like a woman's thigh. As for Yang Tian, he raised his saber and arrived in front of the female bear in a flash. Then, he slashed at the female bear's hind leg. Bang! Yang Tian's knife landed on the female bear's body and made a dull sound. The knife bounced off, and only a few scales fell off. Although this slash did not hurt the female bear, it angered it. Roar! The female bear roared and stood up. Then, it turned around and raised its bear claws at Yang Tian. Yang Tian had already dodged and ran towards the mountain ridge on the left. The female bear angrily chased after him. Although Yang Tian's slash did not hurt the female bear, it hurt the female bear. In this way, the two level 7 green armored bears were lured away by Yang Tian and Mark. Boom, boom, boom. The female bear's huge body ran on the ground with amazing momentum. The ground trembled constantly, and large patches of snow fell off the trees. The trees in front of it, no matter how big or small, were like small branches to this huge female bear. They were directly broken by it. Yang Tian ran through the forest at his fastest speed, and the female bear behind him was always behind him. If there were no trees blocking it, it would have caught up with Yang Tian. After more than 10 minutes, Yang Tian saw that it was about time. He led the female bear down the mountain ridge and rushed down the slope. The slope was full of snow. Yang Tian simply lay down and slid down the mountain. Boom, boom, boom. At this time, the female bear was still chasing Yang Tian. Its 4 feet stepped on the ground, causing the ground to tremble. It seemed that it would not stop until it killed Yang Tian. This was not surprising. This female bear was in the breeding period and had a bad temper. In addition, Yang Tian was delaying its reproduction. Of course, it was angry. At this moment, Yang Tian screamed, because in front of him was a deep cliff. Yang Tian was sliding at a very fast speed. Seeing that he was about to reach the edge of the cliff, he stabbed the saber in his hand into the snow to stop himself from sliding down. The saber and the layer of ice under the snow gave off a chi-chi-chi sound as they rubbed against each other. After dozens of seconds, Yang Tian finally stopped. Yang Tian had already slid to the edge of the cliff and saw that there was a deep valley 40 to 50 meters below. Some sharp rocks poked out from the thick snow. It was too thrilling. Even if Yang Tian was a level 6 warrior, if he fell, it was very likely that he would lose his life. Fortunately, the slope was not very steep. Yang Tian immediately stood up. At this moment, the angry female bear had already rushed over. This female bear could see further than Yang Tian. When it saw the deep valley below, it immediately stopped. But its speed was too fast, and with its bloated body, this sudden stop caused it to flip and roll down the path. Yang Tian had just stood up when he saw the female bear's huge body rolling towards him like a snowball. Even the big trees on the hillside could not stop it from rolling, making a rumbling sound. Damn! Yang Tian shouted and immediately dodged to the side. Fortunately, the hillside was full of trees. Yang Tian pounced diagonally and hugged a big tree. Using the strength of his arm, he slid on the snow. When he was about to pass the big tree, he used his feet to push hard on the trunk. Boom! The female bear's huge body rolled up the snow on the ground and rolled over Yang Tian, breaking the big tree that Yang Tian had just borrowed strength from and falling down the cliff unstoppably. Then, pong! There was a loud noise below the cliff, and the female bear's body fell to the bottom of the valley. Ow, ow! Then came the female bear's mournful roar. Yang Tian carefully came to the edge of the cliff, holding onto a big tree, stretched his head, and looked down. He saw the female bear lying on the ground, constantly shaking its head and howling in pain. It tried to get up from the ground several times, but then fell down powerlessly. Obviously, the female bear was injured. Taking advantage of its illness was the time to kill it. Yang Tian looked around and saw a large number of withered vines about 10 meters to his left. Yang Tian immediately ran over and discovered that these vines were still alive. Each of them was as thin as an arm. Yang Tian followed the vines and started to climb down. Yang Tian quickly followed the rattan to the bottom of the valley and walked quickly towards the injured female bear. Ow! Seeing Yang Tian approaching, the female bear opened its mouth and roared at Yang Tian, threatening Yang Tian. Squeak, squeak, squeak. At this moment, a green shadow flashed and instantly appeared in front of Yang Tian, jumping onto Yang Tian's shoulder. The little blue dragon, who had been watching the battle for a long time, finally appeared. Go! The little blue dragon told Yang Tian that he could deal with this female bear. Yang Tian nodded. This was the time to save time. He still didn't know how Mark was doing. He had to deal with this female bear as soon as possible and go to Mark to take a look. Chapter 76. After getting Yang Tian's approval, the little blue dragon rushed over like lightning and jumped on top of the female bear's head. It raised its claws and kept scratching the female bear's head. The head of the level 7 green-armored bear did not have the kind of hard hair that looked like scales. The little blue dragon was even more powerful than before. In less than a minute, it had scratched through the female bear's head and took out a thumb-sized, golden level 7 beast core from its brain. This was the second time Yang Tian had seen such a level 7 beast core. After the little blue dragon gave the beast core to Yang Tian looked at it and put it in his pocket. Roar! At this time, from the other side of the mountain, there was a roar of a beast. It was obviously the roar of the male bear. Yang Tian immediately climbed up the cliff and went back the way he came. The battle between Mark and the male bear caused a huge commotion. Even from several miles away, one could hear the commotion. Yang Tian found the backpack that he and Mark had left behind and carried it towards the direction of the sound. Soon, he saw the huge male bear in the distance. Other than the male bear, there was also a Pegasus. It was circling in the air and constantly harassing the male bear. Mark was holding a giant sword in his hand and constantly slashing at the giant bear. In just a few minutes, Mark had slashed at the male bear more than 10 times. Yang Tian immediately ran over and threw down his backpack to join the battle. Mark was already very tired. As soon as Yang Tian joined the battle, he immediately let out a sigh of relief. The place where the male bear had been cut by Mark was still bleeding. On its head, there was also a terrible wound. Even its scalp was turned up. There was also a wound at the junction of the ordinary fine hair and hard hair on its neck. Although it was not deep, blood was still flowing out. Yang Tian knew that as long as he continued to fight with this male bear and let it keep bleeding, he would be able to exhaust it to death. The two of them surrounded the male bear and slashed at it while dodging its attacks. With the harassment of the female unicorn in the sky, the ending of this male bear was already foreseeable. Half an hour later, the male bear that had lost a lot of blood finally slowed down. Oofed! While the male bear was attacking Yang Tian and Yang Tian was dodging, Mark leaped up high and ruthlessly stabbed his greatsword into the male bear's neck. Roar! The male bear let out a painful roar and fell to the ground. Its two bear claws kept scratching the ground, making a final struggle. After more than 10 minutes, its originally bright eyes finally dimmed. Phew! Yang Tian and Mark heaved a sigh of relief at the same time. The two level 7 exotic beasts were finally killed by them. Yang Tian had the help of the little blue dragon, so it was easy for him to kill the female bear. Although Mark had the help of the unicorn mother, it was much more strenuous. After the male bear died, Mark sat on the ground and rested for more than 10 minutes before recovering his strength. Then, he stepped forward and pulled out the greatsword from the male bear's neck. Pung pung. Kaka. Mark brandished his giant sword and split open the male bear's head, taking out the golden level 7 beast core. Seeing this beast core, Mark smiled happily. After wiping it clean, he put it in his pocket. Yang, how are things on your side? Mark asked after putting away the beast core. Yang Tian smiled. My luck is better than yours. That big guy fell down the cliff and was quite injured. I easily killed it. Mark couldn't help but smile when he heard that. This time, the two of them had gained a lot from their cooperation, especially Yang Tian, who had unexpectedly encountered two level 7 green armored bears and obtained a level 7 beast core. Yang Tian's original intention for coming to hunt level 7 exotic beasts was to help Mark. He felt that Mark was someone worth making friends with and could be good friends in the future. The next morning, it was still a sunny day. Yang, I'm going back. Is there anything you need me to tell your girlfriend? I'm also a student of Bolia University. Mark asked Yang Tian with a smile after straddling the unicorn mother with his backpack and greatsword. Yang Tian shook his head and smiled. I can call Xiaofei on the satellite phone. You don't need to tell her anything. But don't tell her about the little unicorn. I want to give her a surprise. Mark nodded with a smile and said, Yang, if you have time in the future, come to Hero City as a guest. I'll take you to a few fun places. All the girls there have hot bodies. Maybe you'll forget about Xiaofei after you see them. Ha ha ha. Mark laughed after saying that. Woo woo. At this time, little unicorn whined and ran to the unicorn mother's side. Perhaps it knew that it would be separated from its mother soon, so it seemed very reluctant. The unicorn mother was the same. It looked at the little unicorn with eyes full of reluctance and rubbed its mouth on the little unicorn's head. It's a very uncomfortable thing for both humans and animals. Yang Tian muttered when he saw the situation. Mark patted the unicorn mother's neck and said, Nasha, don't be sad. You'll see each other soon. Maybe it'll have grown wings and can fly by then. Yang, goodbye. See you at Hero City, Mark said and nodded to Yang Tian. All right. Yang Tian nodded and took a few steps back with little unicorn in his arms. Whoosh! The unicorn mother flapped its wings and flew up. After circling in the sky for a few times, it slowly disappeared into the horizon. As soon as Mark left, the little blue dragon appeared and jumped onto Little Unicorn's back. Little Unicorn was so scared that it trembled and didn't dare to move. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The little blue dragon let out a cry that Yang Tian couldn't understand and talked to Little Unicorn. Finally, Little Unicorn was no longer afraid. Sigh. Yang Tian sighed and smiled. I'm alone again. Xiaolong, let's go. This time, we must reach level 7. There are still some things that we need to take care of later. After Yang Tian said that, he narrowed his eyes. He knew that Du Tianxiong would definitely send another master before he left. This time, it wouldn't be a level 6 martial artist. If a level 8 martial artist appeared and Grandpa Qin came to stop him, then the person that Du Tianxiong would send would definitely be a level 7 martial artist. Facing a level 7 martial artist, Yang Tian knew that he wouldn't be able to defeat them. However, escaping was not a problem. However, he couldn't always be chased like this. This feeling was too uncomfortable. 2 days later, Qingxi Valley. After the level 8 martial artist, Du Xiongwen, left, Baikai finally welcomed 2 more high-level martial artists. These 2 level 7 martial artists were both martial artists from Shunwei Martial Arts Hall. Baikai naturally knew them. One of them was called Qi Sun and the other was called Wei Zhong. Both of them were very tall, and they were wearing exquisite armor. This kind of armor was not a simple leather armor. It was a real battle armor. In addition to having an extremely strong defensive ability, it would also enhance the wearer's aura. The 2 of them had different armors. Lu Sun had a yellow tiger head armor, while Wei Zhong had a black wolf head armor. Seeing the armor on the 2 of them, Baikai couldn't help but feel envious. The cost of such a set of armor was at least 1 billion martial coins. It was not something that every martial artist could have. Although it was expensive, its defensive ability was extremely strong. It could indirectly increase the wearer's strength by more than 20%. The 2 of them came fully armed. It was obvious that they were guarding against Yang Tian. Yang Tian's growth was very fast. He might have already reached the level 7 martial artist realm. Qi Sun and Wei Zhong didn't have the same means as Du Xiongwen. Naturally, they couldn't activate the martial artist auxiliary device in Yang Tian's hand. They could only wait for Yang Tian to appear. Chapter 77. In a cave. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The little blue dragon raised its claws and explained to Yang Tian. When the little blue dragon finished speaking, Yang Tian said in surprise, "Swallow the two beast cores together. Is that okay?" Squeak, squeak. The little blue dragon explained to Yang Tian again. After Yang Tian understood, he nodded. This was the first time Yang Tian had swallowed a level 6 and level 7 beast core together. However, with the little blue dragon by his side, Yang Tian was not surprised. He had long been used to it. Looking at the dark blue level 6 beast core and the golden level 7 beast core in his hand, Yang Tian swallowed them one by one with his saliva. A few minutes later, a strong heat appeared in Yang Tian's stomach and spread throughout his body along with the flow of his blood. Yang Tian had experienced this situation several times and was very familiar with it. He used his mind to control the energy of the beast cores and gathered it towards the Dragon Ball in his chest. In Yang Tian's inner vision, the Dragon Ball quickly grew larger, like a black hole, crazily devouring the energy of the beast cores. During this process, the Dragon Ball underwent changes. It was continuously replenished by the beast core's energy. It was like a ball that was being blown up, quickly growing larger. Not only was its size changing, the color of the Dragon Ball was also changing, gradually revealing a golden light. This process of absorbing energy lasted for 2 days. When the energy of the level 6 and level 7 beast cores was completely absorbed, the Dragon Ball had completely turned golden, like a golden ball. Yang Tian's cultivation did not stop. Under the little blue dragon's reminder, coupled with the vague memories in his mind, he used his mind to compress the golden Dragon Ball. Under the power of Yang Tian's mind, the Dragon Ball quickly shrank. In Yang Tian's inner vision, it quickly changed from the size of a football to the size of a ping-pong ball. At this time, Yang Tian did not stop because the little blue dragon told him that in this process, the smaller the Dragon Ball, the better. In other words, condense. This process was even slower than the Dragon Ball's energy absorption process. Especially in the end, the Dragon Ball's shrinking speed became slower and slower. From it, there was a force that resisted Yang Tian's mind. This was like blowing air into a ball. If one did not use force, the extremely elastic balloon would force the air out. Compression. Constant compression. In order to make the Dragon Ball smaller, Yang Tian and the Dragon Ball. The little blue dragon said it was as small as possible. Then he would try to make it as small as possible. Boom! After an unknown amount of time, the world that contained the Dragon Ball trembled, and the Dragon Ball that had become the size of a beast core suddenly shrank into a small golden dot. When this small dot was formed, it emitted a dazzling golden light. At this time, even without the little blue dragon's reminder, Yang Tian knew that this step of cultivation was completed. Squeak, squeak, squeak. After waking up from the selfless inner vision cultivation, Yang Tian opened his eyes and saw the little blue dragon and the little unicorn next to him. The little blue dragon was shouting at Yang Tian, congratulating Yang Tian for condensing the Dragon Ball into a dot. The little blue dragon told Yang Tian the method to cultivate the Dragon Ball, so he naturally knew about the changes in Yang Tian's body. Hearing the little blue dragon congratulating him, Yang Tian smiled happily. Gugu. At this time, Yang Tian's stomach growled. I'm so hungry. At the same time, a very hungry feeling stimulated Yang Tian's brain. Yang Tian couldn't help but smile bitterly. He knew that this kind of cultivation would take a very long time. When he swallowed the 2 beast cores, he filled his stomach in advance. He didn't expect that after the cultivation, he would still be so hungry. The homemade dry food in his backpack has been eaten up. It seems that he has to endure the hunger and go outside to find some food. The strong sense of hunger made Yang Tian feel that he could even eat raw meat at this time. Eating raw meat, it's not like he hasn't experienced it when he was chased by Jotadeo. Squeak! Seeing Yang Tian clutching his stomach, the little blue dragon screamed. It told Yang Tian that the food was on him. Then, the little blue dragon jumped on the little unicorn's back, and the little unicorn moved its 4 hooves and rushed out of the cave. This guy actually learned to ride a horse, Yang Tian said with a smile. Although he was very hungry, his body was full of energy. Yang Tian got up, stretched his body, and then took out the satellite phone from his backpack. The satellite phone and the appearance of an ordinary mobile phone were actually the same. Yang Tian looked at the time displayed on it and was surprised to find that it was actually February 5th. This cultivation actually took a full 10 days. No wonder he was very hungry. When he swallowed the beast core, although most of the power of the beast core was absorbed by the Dragon Ball, his body was also strengthened. Yang Tian clearly felt that his body had changed a lot. Especially his 5 senses, they had become at least twice as clear. Of course, this kind of sensitivity would only be activated when it was being used, especially during battle. Usually, his 5 senses were only a little stronger than ordinary people. This was actually a kind of protection of the nervous system for the body. Otherwise, imagine if the pain was magnified several times stronger than usual. What kind of situation would that be? Pung! Yang Tian punched the mountain wall. The powerful force smashed the hard rock into pieces, and a very obvious fist mark appeared on it. Not only did his strength increase, even his body's resistance to attacks had increased by a lot. Looking at his hands, Yang Tian could not help but think, when those warriors swallowed the beast core, did most of the energy go to waste? Yang Tian used his own experience as a reference and came to this conclusion. Because every time he swallowed a beast core, almost 80% of the energy would be absorbed by the Dragon Ball in his body, and the remaining 20% would be absorbed by the body cells. Even if it was only 20% of the energy, the effect of him swallowing the beast core was about the same as others. In that case, could one beast core strengthen multiple martial artists? Thinking of this, Yang Tian shook his head, because there were already warriors who had tried it, and the most important thing was time. After warriors swallowed a beast core, they would absorb it for a period of time, and it was during this time that their bodies completed the corresponding strengthening. This was like using fire to boil water. Most of the heat from the fire was actually dissipated into the air, and only a small part of the heat was absorbed by the water. Boiling water required time, and if there was not enough time, the water would not boil. During this process, the power of the beast core was equivalent to the fire, and the human body cells were equivalent to the water. Squeak, squeak! Yang Tian did not know how long he had been thinking, but suddenly, the little blue dragon's voice sounded from outside the cave. Soon, the little blue dragon and the snow-white little unicorn appeared in Yang Tian's line of sight. On the little unicorn's back, there was a large piece of meat that was badly scratched. It weighed about 15 kilograms, and if roasted, it would be just enough for Yang Tian and the little blue dragon to eat. Yang Tian lit a fire, washed the beast meat with water, cut it into small pieces with a dagger, and marinated it with seasoning. Then, he used a thin metal skewer to skewer the meat and roasted it over the fire. The man and dragon happily ate the roasted meat. On the other hand, the little unicorn looked at Yang Tian and the little blue dragon eagerly. After seeing this, Yang Tian's heart skipped a beat. He took out a level 1 beast core from his bag, walked in front of the little unicorn, and stuffed it into its mouth. The little unicorn wanted to evolve quickly, and it also needed to continuously consume beast cores. Chapter 78. After eating the barbecued meat, for some reason, Yang Tian felt very sleepy. He told the little blue dragon to keep watch outside, then went into the tent and quickly fell asleep. This sleep was especially sweet. When Yang Tian woke up, it was already noon of the next day. After the little unicorn swallowed the rank 1 beast core, it was curled up in its cave and slept very soundly. It was unknown if it was evolving or not. After waking up, his spirit was very good. Yang Tian practiced his self-created snow cleaver. Now that he had entered a new realm, Yang Tian could clearly feel that his control of the snow cleaver had become more precise when he used it. Squeak, squeak, squeak. After Yang Tian finished practicing the snow cleaver, the little blue dragon came in front of Yang Tian and told Yang Tian another method to use the power of the dragon orb. After hearing this, Yang Tian immediately sat cross-legged on the ground and closed his eyes. After entering the state of inner vision, Yang Tian used the power of his mind to transfer a large amount of the power of the dragon orb to his body below his neck. Then, it was the critical moment. According to the little blue dragon, Yang Tian controlled the power in his body and formed small cyclones. One gave birth to two, two gave birth to four, four gave birth to six. This process did not take much effort. According to the little blue dragon, countless small cyclones were formed in Yang Tian's body and naturally divided. Yang Tian's skin began to itch, and it was a little uncomfortable. However, this was the critical moment, and Yang Tian could only grit his teeth and endure it. At this time, the skin below Yang Tian's neck began to change. Just like the changes that happened to his arm, the skin first wrinkled and then fell off. Half an hour later, Yang Tian opened his eyes and looked at his arm. His hands are the same as before. They didn't turn into dragon claws, but from the wrist all the way to the shoulder, they were covered with fine green scales. Each scale was smaller than a fingernail, and they were distributed very evenly. Using the power of the Dragon Balls, Yang Tian's body was covered with fine scales in less than 20 minutes. Yang Tian decided to take off his clothes and pants, exposing his entire body. Other than his hands, legs, head, neck, and between his legs, the rest of his skin was covered in green scales. Yang Tian looked at his own body and laughed excitedly. The scales on his body were not for the sake of looking good, but for defense. In order to test the defensive capabilities of the scales on his body, Yang Tian picked up the knife and slashed his arm. Only a shallow mark was left on the scales that were sliced by the blade. Yang Tian exerted more force, and the marks became more obvious. He used 50% of his strength, 100% of his strength. After a series of tests, Yang Tian discovered that he had to use all of his strength to break one of the scales. This kind of defensive power was even stronger than the exquisite armor made from the skin of level 7 or 8 exotic beasts. More importantly, the scales on his body were tightly attached to his body. After wearing clothes, others wouldn't be able to see it. If he wore another set of armor, his defensive power would be even stronger. At that time, even the skin on his neck could be covered with scales. Gigi, seeing the scales on Yang Tian's body, the little blue dragon cried out excitedly. Yang Tian put on his clothes and left the cave with his knife. It was already spring. He hadn't gone out for 10 days, but the outside world had already changed. The snow in the forest had already begun to melt, gathering in the low-lying areas and forming streams. Tender shoots had already appeared on the branches of the trees. In less than a month, the entire forest would be full of vitality again. The weather was good, and Yang Tian was in a good mood. He carried his knife and came to the side of stream. He sat on a blue stone and began to think about his snow cleaver. The snow cleaver was created by Yang Tian when it was snowing. Until now, it had not reached a perfect state. What it lacked was not the moves. The moves could be used as a reference for other saber techniques. This was the result of Yang Tian's comprehension during this period of time. What it lacked was not a unique saber technique. It was because of the technique that Yang Tian created this saber technique. What was it that was lacking? Yang Tian couldn't think of anything at the moment. After sitting on the bluestone for half a day, Yang Tian began to practice with his saber. He used the cutting technique of the snow cleaver saber technique. The moves he used were evolved from the lightning saber technique. Yang Tian had modified them to be more direct and less flashy. Yang Tian understood this after spending some time with Mark. This was because the greatsword Mark used did not have any direct moves. It relied on his strength and speed. This did not mean that Mark had not practiced any moves. On the contrary, Mark had reached a state of no move is better than a move because he was too familiar with the moves of the greatsword. CSI. By the stream, Yang Tian's figure flashed. The saber in his hand turned into countless white rays of light. The saber's body rubbed against the air, making a sizzling sound. Yang Tian's current strength and speed far exceeded before he swallowed the level 6 and level 7 beast cores. At this time, he only used the strength of his physical body. The saber technique he used was faster than when he used the power of the Dragon Balls. After practicing a set of saber techniques, Yang Tian's heart skipped a beat. With a thought, the Dragon Balls in his body suddenly released a large amount of power and covered his entire body. Yang Tian once again had the same feeling of power that he had when he first woke up. He felt that with his current strength and speed, even if he could not defeat the level 8 warrior Du Xiongwen, he could still escape. This was not Yang Tian's illusion. Instead, it was his conservative estimate. Could it be that my realm has reached level 8? Yang Tian suddenly thought in surprise. This was not strange. After Yang Tian swallowed the level 5 beast cores, he could use the power of the Dragon Balls to defeat a level 6 warrior. And now, after swallowing the level 6 and level 7 beast cores, the Dragon Balls in his body had changed again. It was equivalent to leveling up. He might even be able to defeat a level 8 warrior. Of course, because Yang Tian's strength had increased too quickly, he did not realize that his strength had become very terrifying to other warriors. Pong! Suddenly, Yang Tian's feet stepped on a huge rock by the stream, and his body shot out. His body flew more than 10 meters in the blink of an eye. Just as he was about to hit a big tree, he shrank his body, and his body naturally rotated in the air. His head was originally facing the tree, but now his legs were facing the tree. Before he came into contact with the tree trunk, Yang Tian bent his legs slightly and then kicked off the tree trunk. PFFF. Yang Tian's body shot out again. This situation was like the tree was the bow and his body was the arrow. Just like that, Yang Tian kept jumping in the forest and felt a strange pleasure of flying. If he moved forward at this speed, Yang Tian was confident that he could walk out of this forest within a day. Pong! Yang Tian, who had enough fun, landed on the ground. His feet stepped on the ground, and the thick rock on the ground cracked into pieces. Squeak, squeak. At this time, the little blue dragon appeared and landed on Yang Tian's shoulder. Its cry was only to express its joy. Yang Tian looked up at the sky and smiled. Now, I can finally return to Tianxiong City with peace of mind. But before I leave, there's still some things I need to take care of. After returning to the cave that was not very deep, Yang Tian immediately opened his martial artist support device. Although Yang Tian had exposed his location because of the martial artist support device and was almost killed by Du Xiongwen, he did not throw away the martial artist support device. This was the time to use it. Chapter 79. After resting for a night, Yang Tian ate breakfast and went outside the cave. After casually finding a stone to sit on, Yang Tian turned on his martial artist auxiliary device and connected it to the internet. Yang Tian's martial artist auxiliary device could no longer be used. His parents, Qin Fei, Xiao Fei, and the others all knew about it. After the auxiliary device was turned on, there was naturally no new information received. Yang Tian leisurely watched the martial artist news. In fact, there was nothing interesting about these news. For the current Yang Tian, these were all trivial matters. Yang Tian killed time while waiting for someone. In the Qingxi Valley, clang, 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 Qi Sun and Wei Zhong were exchanging pointers. The two figures were entangled and flashing rapidly, making the onlookers unable to distinguish who was who. Their weapons were constantly colliding, making ear-piercing sounds. Qi Sun's weapon was the same as Yang Tian's. It was a YT elemental alloy tang sword, while Wei Zhong's weapon was a very long scimitar. Bai Kai leaned on his scimitar and watched without blinking. If he successfully completed the mission this time, he would be able to get a level 7 beast core when he returned. This was a promise from Dojo Master Du Xiongwu. One had to know that a level 7 beast core was worth 10 billion martial coins. Bai Kai cannot take out so much money. However, the dojo's income was not low. Every martial artist had to pay a certain amount of dojo fees every year. In addition, the dojo did some beast core business, so money flowed in like water. Most of the money would be used to stock up on various beast cores, weapons, armors, combat skills, and so on. The Shunwei dojo did not have any level 8 beast cores, but it had several level 7 beast cores. These beast cores were not to be sold, but to be used as a reward in the dojo. Every level 6 martial artist would have the opportunity to receive such a reward as long as they made enough contributions to the dojo. Although Du Xiongwu could not use these beast cores privately, he could judge the martial artists and determine who among the level 6 martial artists were qualified to receive these rewards. It was because of this reason that Bai Kai stayed behind, determined to kill Yang Tian. As he watched Qi Sun and Wei Zhong exchange pointers, Bai Kai's mind was filled with fantasies of what it would be like to become a level 7 martialist. Among the upper echelons of martial artists, a level 7 martial artist was like a dividing line. As long as one reached level 7, they would have a certain status. They would also have a position with real power in the martial arts club. Even the club master would have to treat them with respect. When needed, they could even use some of the martial arts club's resources. If one hadn't reached level 7, they would only be a small role in the dojo. Senior White, Yang Tian's auxiliary device has a signal. The location has been sent to your auxiliary device. At this moment, a young warrior ran over and said to Bai Kai. Bai Kai raised his wrist and looked at it. Sure enough, there was a set of coordinates. These coordinates were the location of Yang Tian. This kid, how dare he turn on the auxiliary device? Isn't he afraid that we will know? Bai Kai knew Yang Tian's location and was very excited for a moment. However, he quickly calmed down and felt that Yang Tian wasn't that stupid. At this moment, Qi Sun and Wei Zhong stopped and came in front of Bai Kai. Seeing two level 7 martialists, Bai Kai suddenly regained his confidence. He didn't believe that Yang Tian would improve to a level more powerful than a level 7 martialist in less than a month. Qi Sun and Wei Zhong naturally stopped when they heard Bai Kai's subordinates. Although they had been exchanging pointers for a long time, their faces weren't red and they weren't out of breath. Where is he? Qi Sun walked in front of Bai Kai and asked faintly. Qi Sun's attitude towards Bai Kai was very cold. In fact, it wasn't just Bai Kai. Even Wei Zhong didn't like Bai Kai. After coming here, they didn't have any private communication with Bai Kai. Bai Kai was similar to Su Zhan, who had been killed by Yang Tian. However, he was better than Su Zhan because he wasn't as ugly as Su Zhan. As soon as Qi Sun asked, Bai Kai immediately replied, "Northeast, 30 kilometers, not far from us." Then what are we waiting for? Let's go. After Wei Zhong finished speaking, he went to pack up his equipment. Qi Sun was the same. 10 minutes later, Bai Kai led a group of men and set off with Wei Zhong and Qi Sun. At this time, Yang Tian had turned off his martial arts auxiliary tool and was wiping the blade in his hand with a rag covered with animal oil. Yang Tian's heart was calm. There was no anxiety or tension, nor was there any expectation. He was just waiting. He knew that the people from Shunwei Martial Arts Hall would definitely come. The snow in the jungle was about to melt. The road was much easier to walk on. Even if Yang Tian didn't look for them, more people from Shunwei Martial Arts Hall would find him. It was only a matter of time. More than an hour later, creak, creak, in the woods ahead, there was a sound of footsteps. The place where the sound came from was about a kilometer away from where Yang Tian was. They were coming. Ding! Yang Tian bent his finger and flicked the blade. The blade made a soft sound. Ever since he was wanted, he had never been so confident. This was strength. With strength, there would be strong confidence. A few minutes later, a group of more than 20 people appeared in front of Yang Tian. The two people in the lead were actually wearing exquisite armor. Qi Sun and Wei Zhong, the two of them wearing armor to find Yang Tian. In the eyes of others, it was a kind of attention to Yang Tian. These two people had armor. Of course, Yang Tian also had armor. It was just that his armor was generally not available to others. Yang Tian sat there, waiting for the arrival of the other party. 50 meters away from Yang Tian, Bai Kai stopped, looking cautious. Only Qi Sun and Wei Zhong continued to move forward. The two of them stopped about 10 meters away from Yang Tian. "You're Yang Tian. You're really young." Qi Sun glanced at Yang Tian and said faintly. Yang Tian nodded. "I'm only 19 years old. Of course I'm young. Do you want to do it yourself, or do we have to do it ourselves?" Wei Zhong looked at Yang Tian and said coldly. Yang Tian laughed and sneered. Have you ever seen a martial artist who immediately committed suicide when he met a stronger opponent? It's simply bullshit. Courting death. Wei Zhong was furious. He raised his scimitar and appeared in front of Yang Tian like lightning. When he moved, he was like a fleeting shadow. A level 7 martial artist was indeed different from a level 6 martial artist. His speed was at least 50% faster than a level 6 martial artist. At this time, Yang Tian still had the mind to think about this problem. Wei Zhong's scimitar arrived at his chest in the blink of an eye. Pung! Yang Tian bounced his legs and broke a few pieces of gravel under his feet. His body used the force to catapult into the air. Wei Zhong's scimitar almost brushed past the bottom of Yang Tian's feet. Yang Tian somersaulted in the air and landed on the ground. Yang Tian's fast reaction speed and jumping ability surprised Qi Sun and Wei Zhong. They had never fought with a level 8 martial artist before. Naturally, they did not know that Yang Tian's reaction speed was comparable to Du Xiongwu's. Seeing the surprised faces of Qi Sun and Wei Zhong, Yang Tian pointed his scimitar at the two of them and said, "I should be a level 8 martial artist now. You're no match for me. I can spare your lives as long as you leave immediately." Level 8 martial artist. Qi Sun and Wei Zhong were shocked. "You didn't give your level 8 beast core to Qin Lao?" Qi Sun reacted quickly and asked with a frown. Yang Tian just smiled and did not answer. Qi Sun and Wei Zhong thought that Yang Tian had acquiesced. In their knowledge, a martial artist had to swallow beast cores to advance to a certain level. Yang Tian became a level 8 martial artist because he swallowed a level 8 beast core. Chapter 80. For Qi Sun and Wei Zhong, things were a little difficult now. If they fought with Yang Tian, if Yang Tian was really a level 8 warrior, needless to say, they would be defeated and might even die. But what if Yang Tian was bluffing? This was also very possible, because more than 20 days ago, Yang Tian was still a level 6 warrior and was injured by Bai Kai at that time. In such a short period of time, he had advanced from a level 6 warrior to a level 8 warrior. Very few people would believe it if they heard about it. Seeing the two of them hesitating, Yang Tian smiled and said, "If you don't believe me, you might as well give it a try." After Yang Tian finished speaking, Qi Sun and Wei Zhong looked at each other and nodded. The purpose of the two of them coming here was naturally to kill Yang Tian. Du Xiongwu had already told them, as long as they killed Yang Tian, they would use the martial arts center's power to help them by level 8 beast cores and become level 8 warriors. Although the chances of getting level 8 beast cores were very small, they could give it a try. It was better than having no hope and waiting. One had to know that level 8 exotic beasts were very difficult to find and hunt, unless a level 9 warrior took action directly. And a level 9 warrior, based on the two of them status, they could not invite such a person. After Qi Sun and Wei Zhong looked at each other, they moved and rushed toward Yang Tian, one on the left and one on the right. The two of them burst out with their most powerful strength and speed. In the blink of an eye, the two of them crossed a distance of more than 10 meters and appeared in front of Yang Tian. Yang Tian narrowed his eyes slightly and focused his energy. Qi Sun and Wei Zhong's movements suddenly became slow in his eyes. Pong! Yang Tian bent his legs and shot out like a sharp arrow. Qi! Yang Tian's figure brushed past Wei Zhong's body, making a friction sound. Yang Tian's speed was too fast. Wei Zhong only saw a blur in front of his eyes. Just as he was about to change his move, Yang Tian's body flashed and swept past him. After brushing past Wei Zhong, Yang Tian stopped abruptly. At this time, Wei Zhong felt a chill in his chest. He looked down and saw that his breastplate had been cut open. Even his inner clothes were torn. There was also a small cut on his skin. "I don't want to kill you all. Otherwise, my blade would have pierced your heart." Yang Tian smiled as he looked at Wei Zhong's back and said lightly. Qi Sun and Wei Zhong finally believed that Yang Tian had complete confidence in killing them within a few moves. Wei Zhong let out a long sigh, turned around, and said to Yang Tian, "I will definitely return this favor to you in the future." After Wei Zhong finished speaking, he turned around and left. Qi Sun shook his head, sheathed his saber, and followed Wei Zhong. Bai Kai, who was not far away, saw this scene and his eyes widened. He could not believe that Yang Tian had become a level 8 warrior in such a short time. Just now, he naturally heard the conversation between Yang Tian, Qi Sun, and Wei Zhong. Of course, he did not believe it. But in a moment, Wei Zhong was defeated. Staying here was undoubtedly courting death. Bai Kai immediately turned around and ran. Bai Kai was a smart person. He knew that Yang Tian could let Qi Sun and Wei Zhong go, but he would never let him go. At this time, he regretted using that method to deal with Yang Tian. He almost killed Yang Tian. Of course, Yang Tian would not let Bai Kai go. In Yang Tian's heart, there was always a good or bad judgment of a warrior. That was the most basic code of conduct. A warrior could kill people like flies, but they had to kill openly, using schemes and tricks, using improper means to deal with others. That was the scum of a warrior. Towards such a person, Yang Tian was very disgusted. Therefore, he wanted to let Fonda go back then because he felt that Fonda was a man. He also let Zhu Hongyu go because Zhu Hongyu came directly. It was either you die or I die. And Bai Kai was undoubtedly a person that Yang Tian loathed. Looking at Bai Kai's fleeing figure, Yang Tian smiled coldly and chased after. This kind of situation was just like more than a month ago when Du Xiongwu chased after him. Bang! Bang! Yang Tian's figure constantly bounced between the trees. His speed was extremely fast and soon caught up to Bai Kai, blocking in front of Bai Kai. Listen to me. But facing Yang Tian, Bai Kai was extremely shocked. He quickly opened his mouth, trying to find a reason for Yang Tian to let him go. However, Yang Tian did not listen to his nonsense. His body moved, and the sword in his hand swiped. Before Bai Kai could react, his head was chopped off. Who would believe the words of a person like you? Yang Tian looked at Bai Kai's corpse and said indifferently. After saying that, he turned and left. 2 days later, I really can't bear to leave. Yang Tian carried his backpack and scanned the surrounding forest. He had stayed here for more than half a year. Although he was constantly being hunted down by others, he had the help of the little azure dragon in this dangerous area. Most of the time, he had managed to avoid danger. During this process, his realm had also improved rapidly. When he came here last August, Yang Tian was still a level 2 warrior. But now, although Yang Tian did not consume any level 8 beast cores, his strength was already equivalent to a level 8 warrior. Yang Tian had never thought that he would be able to grow so quickly and become so powerful. However, this feeling was great. To become a powerful warrior in such a short period of time was something that everyone dreamed of. Screech! Suddenly, the cry of an eagle could be heard in the sky. A giant eagle flew from afar and quickly landed on the ground. Housekeeper Wu jumped down from the eagle's back and smiled at Yang Tian. Young Master Yang, the master asked me to come and pick you up. Yang Tian carried the little unicorn and walked over. As for the little blue dragon, it was already hidden in Yang Tian's backpack. After the two of them got on the eagle's back, Yang Tian smiled and asked Wu Fong, Uncle Wu, why are you calling me Young Master Yang? I'm not some young master. Wu Fong laughed and said, This is what the master asked me to call you. As for why, I don't know either. As Wu Fong spoke, he saw that Yang Tian was already seated. He scratched the eagle's back, and the little eagle flapped its wings and flew up. Wu Fong came to pick up Yang Tian because Yang Tian had called Qin Jingyang and said that he wanted to go back to the city. Qin Jingyang then sent housekeeper Wu and the little eagle to pick up Yang Tian. After the little eagle flew up steadily, Wu Fong asked curiously, Your pony is beautiful. Is it for the young lady? Yang Tian smiled and said, It's for Xiao Fei. It's not an ordinary mutant horse, but a unicorn. When it grows up, it will grow wings and fly like a little eagle. Wu Fong naturally knew what kind of creature a unicorn was. However, he had been with Qin Jingyang for a long time and had seen many strange people and mutant beasts. He was not too surprised. At this time, he said to Yang Tian, Regarding your feud with Du Xiongwu, when you return to the city, you can apply to the Warriors Committee. When Wu Fong said this, Yang Tian smiled and said, "There's no need for that. It's useless. Du Xiongwu wants to kill me, so naturally, he'll try his best. With this person around, I will always be vigilant." Yang Tian had already thought about this matter, so he did not want to trouble the Warriors Committee. This was a world where the strong were respected. Asking the Warriors Committee to come forward and help him was the behavior of the weak. The little eagle flew very fast. After flying for more than 2 hours, it flew into Tianxiong City and landed in the courtyard of Qin Jingyang's villa. Yang Tian's parents knew that Yang Tian was coming back, so they had been waiting for a long time. Chapter 81. Dad, Mom, I'm back. After jumping off the eagle's back and putting down little unicorn in his backpack, Yang Tian happily ran up to his parents and hugged them. Good. It's good that you're back. Wang Hong wiped her tears and cried with joy as she held Yang Tian's hand. Yang Lin's eyes were also wet. He patted Yang Tian's shoulder hard and felt that his son was much stronger than before. Yang Tian looked at his parents and didn't know what to say. He just smiled very happily. Come in and have a seat. At this time, Qin Lao came out and said with a smile when he saw the family reunion. Yang Tian pulled his parents into the villa's living room. In the living room, after Yang Tian chatted with his parents for a while, he was called to his study by Qin Lao. I heard that Qi Sun and Wei Zhong were easily defeated by you. These two are level 7 martial artists. Qi Sun is at the peak of level 7 martial artist. That means you're already a level 8 martial artist? After the two of them sat down on the sofa, Qin Lao looked at Yang Tian and asked with a smile. Yang Tian nodded. Qin Lao laughed. You should be the youngest level 8 martial artist in human history. This old man won't ask about your secret anymore. After returning to the city, what do you want to do next? Yang Tian had already thought about it and said, First, I'll meet up with my friends and then go to Hero City to see Xiao Fei. Qin Lao nodded and asked, How do you want to deal with a martial artist arrest warrant? Yang Tian smiled and said, With my current martial artist realm, I can totally ignore this kind of arrest warrant. When he said this, Yang Tian seemed very confident. Old man Qin looked at Yang Tian's expression and the confidence he exuded. He could not help but smile and nod his head. Although Yang Tian was young, after becoming a high-level martial artist, he had the aura of a high-level martial artist. Compared to the previous few times they met, Yang Tian had changed so much that even Qin Lao felt that he was a little unfamiliar. This was, of course, a good thing. The stronger Yang Tian became, the more he could protect Xiao Fei. Even so, it's not a good thing to have a martial artist want a token on you. Qin Lao was silent for a moment and said lightly, In Tianxiong City, there are 2 committees composed of high-level martial artists. One is the Management Committee, and the other is the Martial Artist Committee. As for Du Xiongwu, as the master of Shunwei Martial Arts Hall and an important member of these 2 committees, even if he can't do anything to you for a while, he will always find some trouble for you. For example, now that you have a martial artist arrest warrant on you, you can't buy weapons in the city. Really? When Yang Tian heard this, he frowned and said in surprise. Qin Lao nodded. In addition to weapons, you can't buy combat skills either. If you want to go to other cities, you can't take those short-distance planes. The trade of beast cores in the city is closed to you. In the cities allied with Hero City, you can't even use your bank card. You're prohibited from verifying your martial artist level, and so on. Do you think that the martial artist arrest warrant is just a simple arrest warrant? These were equivalent to restricting Yang Tian's personal freedom. Of course, Yang Tian was unwilling. He smiled bitterly and said, It seems that I still need the Martial Artist Committee to come forward and solve this. Previously, Zhao Xuanxing of Tianwei Dojo had told Yang Tian that he could apply to the Martial Artist Committee for reconciliation. As long as the Martial Artist Committee accepted the application, the martial artist arrest warrant would naturally become invalid. However, you can't avoid a fight. That person was most likely Du Xiongwu. Qin Lao smiled and nodded. He said with a smile, This kind of reconciliation is actually to let two martial artists who have a grudge against each other settle their grudges as fair as possible. It's not targeted at the martial artist arrest warrant. In fact, the martial artist arrest warrant Du Xiongwu issued to you is not legal. It's just that, as a top powerhouse in this world, no one wants to offend him. After Qin Zheng finished speaking, he looked at Yang Tian and said, "Are you confident that you can beat a peak level 8 martial artist?" Yang Tian lowered his head and thought. Speaking of which, he had never really fought with a level 8 martial artist. When he met Du Xiongwen, it was not a fight, but a torture. If Du Xiongwen was more straightforward, he would probably be lying in a coffin now. At that time, Du Xiongwen said that he would bring his corpse back. Level 8 martial artist. After a long time, Yang Tian shook his head. "I don't know because I have never fought with a level 8 martial artist. That's not important. Come with me to the backyard. I'll test your skills." After Qin Lao finished speaking, he stood up and walked out quickly. Yang Dao's eyes lit up, and he immediately followed. Qin Lao was a level 9 martial artist. Yang Tian was looking forward to seeing a level 9 martial artist fight. He wanted to see what kind of situation it would be. That day in the forest, when Qin Lao defeated Du Xiongwen, Yang Tian did not see it clearly. The yard was not very big. Yang Tian took his saber. When the two of them arrived in the yard, Yang Tian's parents and the housekeeper, Wu Fong, stood to the side and watched curiously. After Yang Tian and Qin Lao stood 7 to 8 meters apart, Qin Lao stroked his beard and said with a smile, "Use your full strength to attack me." "Okay." Yang Tian nodded. Pung. Suddenly, Yang Tian moved. His feet stepped on the grass, and his figure flashed. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of Qin Lao. He swung his saber at Qin Lao's shoulder. Hiss! The saber in Yang Tian's hand turned into a flash of white light. As it rubbed against the air, it made an ear-piercing sound. At this time, Yang Tian used the power of the Dragon Ball. Yang Tian's current strength was equivalent to a level 8 martial artist. Of course, this was under the condition that he used the power of the Dragon Ball. Other martial artists used hidden force. Compared to the power of the Dragon Ball, hidden force was far inferior. This was why Yang Tian had the strength of a level 6 martial artist when he swallowed a level 5 beast core. When he swallowed a level 7 beast core, he was equivalent to a level 8 martial artist. This saber was the fastest saber move that Yang Tian had ever used since he became a martial artist. When he defeated Wei Zhong, he did not even use his full strength. The saber that was swinging down came into contact with Qin Lao's shoulder in an instant. Pong! When Yang Tian's saber landed on Qin Lao's shoulder, Qin Lao only shook his shoulder and shook Yang Tian's saber away. There was a sound that sounded like an explosion. When the saber was rebounded, Yang Tian's arm that was holding the saber was numb from the shock. If it were not for the power of the Dragon Ball, the saber in his hand would have flown out of his hand. Yang Tian put away his saber and took 2 steps back. He looked at Qin Lao in surprise. Qin Lao laughed. "Your strength and speed have reached the peak of a level 8 martial artist. If you are careful, you should have no problem defeating Du Xiongwu." "Grandpa Qin, how did you manage to shake my saber away?" Yang Tian was stunned for a moment before he scratched his head and asked. Old man Qin smiled and said, "When you reach level 9, you will reach a whole new level in the way you use the hidden energy in your body. At that time, you will naturally understand." "Oh." Yang Tian nodded. The Warrior Committee's office building was very eye-catching. It was located in the middle of Tianxiong City and was next to the Management Committee's building. Both buildings were the tallest in Tianxiong City. Yang Tian pushed open the door of the Warrior Committee's office and walked in under Wu Fong's lead. Chapter 82. After entering the building of the Martial Artists Committee, they took the elevator to the 88th floor. Thump, thump, thump. The corridor was very clean, bright, and quiet. As they walked, their leather shoes touched the shiny floor, making rhythmic and steady footsteps. 2 long-haired women in black suits, short skirts, and high heels walked over with folders in their arms. The two women were very beautiful and elegant. Yang Tian could not help but take a second look at them. The Martial Artist Committee of Tianxiong City managed all the martial artists in Tianxiong City. It was the most powerful organization in the city, so it naturally gathered all the elites of the city. The women in charge of organizing the essays were all 1 in 1,000 beauties. After the two women brushed past Yang Tian and Wu Fong, they turned around and looked at Yang Tian's back curiously. I know this guy. His name is Yang Tian. He's been wanted for a long time. I didn't expect him to come back alive. Yeah, he's really powerful. I heard that 2 level 7 martial artists from Shunwei Martial Arts Hall couldn't beat him. Hee. From the looks of it, have you fallen in love with him? He's so powerful at such a young age. His future is limitless. Although you're 3 years older than him, a woman who's 3 years older will have a golden brick. Do you want me to help you ask him for his contact information? The whispering of the two women was naturally heard by Yang Tian and Wu Fong. Wu Fong turned to look at Yang Tian and said with a smile, "Young Master Yang, did you hear that? I want to be your girlfriend." Yang Tian just smiled and shook his head. Yang Tian was very satisfied with Qin Fei. How could he be tempted by other women? The two soon arrived at a spacious office. As soon as the door opened, Yang Tian saw 3 people, 2 men and 1 woman. One of them was tall and had a domineering aura. One could tell that he was an expert at first glance. He was standing in front of the weapon rack in the office, holding an ancient sword. A beautiful woman in a black dress was standing in front of him. There was another man, a middle-aged fat man with short hair. When Yang Tian and Wu Fong entered the office, the 3 of them immediately turned their heads and looked at Yang Tian. When the tall man and the beautiful woman in the black dress saw Yang Tian, their faces became gloomy and their eyes were filled with hatred. The middle-aged fatty immediately came up to them and smiled at Yang Tian and Wu Fong. I've been waiting for you two for a long time. You just need to sign the mediation contract. Yang Tian's current strength was a level 8 martial artist, which was considered a top martial artist in this world. Wu Fong was Qin Lao's housekeeper. Both of them had come to the Martial Artist Committee to work for them. Naturally, the Martial Artist Committee would not treat them like ordinary martial artists and go through complicated procedures. He is Du Xiongwu. The woman beside him is his wife, Zhu Shaoqing. Wu Fong whispered in Yang Tian's ear. Although Du Xiongwu had sent many martial artists to kill Yang Tian to avenge his son, this was the first time Yang Tian had met Du Xiongwu. Du Xiongwu looked at Yang Tian coldly. Yang Tian glanced at Du Xiongwu and turned his head. He went to the fatty's desk and looked at a 2-page document. This was the mediation document from the Martial Artist Committee. After Yang Tian saw that there were no problems, he signed his name on it. For the sake of fairness, this kind of mediation only allowed martial artists of the same level to duel. If one side's level was higher than the other, the higher-level martial artist would have to spend money to hire a martial artist of the same level as his enemy to fight for him. Of course, for low-level martial artists, applying for mediation was a very helpless matter. It was the action of a weakling. However, Yang Tian was applying for mediation this time. He was already a level 8 martial artist, so no one would think that he was a weakling. If it wasn't for the martial artist warrant, Yang Tian would have directly ignored Du Xiongwu. Both of them were experts of the same level, so no one was afraid of the other. When the middle-aged fatty saw Yang Tian sign the document, he smiled and said, "From tomorrow onwards, the martial artist warrant will be invalid for you." Yang Tian smiled and nodded. He had brought back a lot of beast cores from the forest and was planning to sell them for money. He was also preparing to buy a villa, marry Qin Fei, and entertain guests. If the arrest warrant was still with him, all of this would be difficult to do. After Yang Tian signed the document, Zhu Shaoqing quickly walked in front of Yang Tian. She stared at Yang Tian and asked, "Why do you want to kill Feng? He has no enmity with you." "Why?" Yang Tian smiled and said, "You should be very clear in your hearts. If I don't kill him, he will kill me. Am I supposed to stand there and stretch my neck for him to chop? As a martial artist, isn't it normal to kill and be killed? You are afraid that your son will be killed by others. So why do you want him to become a martial artist? He even wants to go to the danger zone." "Humph. After Yang Tian finished speaking, Zhu Shaoqing coldly snorted. My son's life is more precious than yours. He can kill you, but you can't kill him. Otherwise, you will have to pay with your life. No, I want you to live a life worse than death. Hearing Zhu Shaoqing's unreasonable words, Yang Tian sneered and said, You have to have the ability first. Don't talk nonsense. Okay. After Yang Tian finished speaking, Du Xiongwu sneered and said, The time is tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning. Don't be afraid to come at that time. After Du Xiongwu finished speaking, he turned and walked out of the office. Zhu Shaoqing coldly glanced at Yang Tian again and followed him out. Take care. The middle-aged fat man smiled and walked out of the door and said enthusiastically, Old you, the matter is done. We should go. If you have time, I will treat you to a drink at Heaven on Earth. After the middle-aged fat man turned and came back, Wu Fong said with a smile. The middle-aged fat man smiled and said, Old Wu, you are treating. It is really rare. When the time comes, I will really rip you off. Wu Fong nodded. Only then did Yang Tian know that Steward Wu and this person called Old Yu knew each other. This wasn't strange. The circle of martial artists was actually very small, especially among high-ranking martial artists. After the two of them were done being polite, Yang Tian nodded at Old Yu. When Yang Tian and Wu Fong walked to the door, Old Yu suddenly said, Wait a minute. Yang Tian and Wu Fong turned around and looked at Old Yu, not knowing what Old Yu wanted to say. Old Yu glanced at the end of the corridor and whispered to Yang Tian, You have to be careful. Du Xiongwu is very sinister. He recently bought a bottle of grade 8 sea dragon poison at high price. Grade 8 sea dragon poison. A sea dragon was a mutated sea snake in the sea. Its poison was very powerful. The poison secreted by a grade 1 or 2 sea dragon could numb a grade 5 or 6 martial artist body. The poison of a grade 8 sea dragon would probably cause a grade 9 martial artist to be unable to resist the corrosion of the body. Hearing this news, Yang Tian's eyes narrowed slightly. At this time, Du Xiongwu bought the grade 8 sea dragon poison. It was very obvious that it was to deal with Yang Tian. Yang Tian was filled with gratitude towards Old Yu. Thank you for the reminder. I will definitely be careful. Little Tian, this time, you owe you a favor. Remember to be more careful tomorrow. Don't get hurt by Du Xiongwu's weapon. The poison of a high-ranking sea dragon is transparent and colorless. It can be smeared directly on a weapon, making it hard for people to see. If such a weapon pierces the body, it will be difficult to deal with. After returning to Qin Lao's villa, Yang Tian told Qin Lao about Old Yu's reminder. Qin Lao frowned and said to Yang Tian, I didn't expect that a grade 8 martial artist like Du Xiongwu would actually use such methods. He's not as open as his younger brother. Yang Tian nodded and gritted his teeth. Chapter 83. Uncle Qin, Little Tian, come out and eat. At this moment, Wang Hong shouted from the outside. Qin Lao and Yang Tian heard and laughed. Let's go and eat. We'll talk about tomorrow's matters tomorrow. Nothing is more important than eating. Qin Lao stood up and said with a smile. Yang Tian smiled and nodded, throwing his worries to the back of his mind. In order to celebrate Yang Tian's return, Wang Hong made a lot of dishes. She and another middle-aged female housekeeper served the dishes. Yang Tian hadn't eaten his mother's cooking for a long time. Looking at the table full of dishes, Yang Tian was drooling, especially the few plates of vegetables. Yang Tian was full of appetite for them. There was also the white rice. After the dishes were served, Qin Lao called butler Wu Fong and a middle-aged female housekeeper over. The 6 of them sat around the table and ate. It was very lively. During the meal, Yang Tian found out that the middle-aged woman sitting opposite him was actually Qin Fei's personal housekeeper. She had raised Qin Fei since she was young and was called Aunt Lu by Qin Lao. Aunt Lu, please eat. Yang Tian picked up shredded kelp, which was very hard to eat, and put into Aunt Lu's bowl. He seemed very attentive. Qin Lao and Wu Fong saw this and laughed. After dinner, Yang Tian returned to the room that Butler Wu had arranged for him. The room was on the second floor, opposite Qin Fei's room. As soon as the door opened, Little Unicorn ran over and made a woo-woo sound. After Yang Tian fed Little Unicorn a level 1 beast core last time, Little Unicorn's forehead had a sharp horn. On its back, near its front legs, there were 2 protruding sarcomas. It seemed that it would grow wings soon. When Yang Tian opened his backpack, the little blue dragon jumped out and roared excitedly. After being cooped up in a backpack for an entire day, the little blue dragon couldn't hold it in any longer. If it wasn't for the presence of an expert like Qin Lao, it would have already run around. Yang Tian took out all the beast cores from his bag. Last time, when he was with Mark, he had encircled and annihilated a pack of wolves and obtained a large number of beast cores. Yang Tian and the little blue dragon had no use for low-level beast cores. Other than leaving some for Little Unicorn to help it grow, Yang Tian planned to sell all of them for martial coins. That way, he could buy a villa in the Villa District. The Villa District was the safest place in the entire city. The gatekeepers were all martial artists, and there was a specialized shopping mall. Yang Tian would only be at ease if his parents lived here. Moreover, there were many leisure places in the villa area, such as cinemas, amusement parks, and so on. Although they were not very big, they were the most ideal places for the people of this world to go for leisure. Before the outbreak of the YS virus, people could still travel around. Now, other than the safe zone, normal people could not go out. Even martial artists had to endure a certain degree of danger when they went out. Looking at the pile of beast cores of various colors, Yang Tian smiled happily. After keeping the beast cores, Yang Tian took a shower, changed into his pajamas, and lay on the bed. He had been outside for more than half a year. Usually, when he slept, Yang Tian would be in a vigilant state. Now that he was lying on a soft bed, he was not used to it. Yang Tian took out his satellite phone and dialed Qin Fei's number. At this time, on the other side of the world, it was probably daytime. The call went through very quickly. Yang Tian, get ready to sleep. Are you used to it? I was just about to call you. The moment the call went through, Qin Fei's sweet voice came through. After chatting with Qin Fei for a while, Yang Tian picked up his martial artist assistive device and sent a message to Xiao Fei. He told Xiao Fei and the others that he would be fighting with Du Xiongwu tomorrow. The moment Yang Tian's message was sent, Xiao Fei replied very quickly. He said that they already knew and would definitely be there to watch the fight tomorrow. After that, Yang Tian would have to treat them to a meal at Heaven on Earth. After Yang Tian replied to the message, he closed his eyes. He thought that he would be able to fall asleep very quickly. However, when it was past 1 o'clock in the morning, Yang Tian was still very energetic. Other than the fact that he had just returned and was not used to it, Yang Tian was also a little worried about the fight with Du Xiongwu tomorrow. When it was past 3 o'clock, Yang Tian was in a daze for a while. At 6 o'clock in the morning, he got out of bed, put on his clothes, and left the room. At this time, the little blue dragon was sleeping soundly under Yang Tian's pillow. Little Unicorn had jumped onto Yang Tian's bed and was lying on the edge of the bed. Fortunately, the bed was big enough. These two fellas were very good at finding places. Holding the saber, Yang Tian went to the courtyard and practiced his self-created snow slashing saber technique. Yang Tian's self-created saber technique was not perfect, but he still persisted in practicing it every day. This was because he knew that practice makes perfect. He knew that with continuous practice, there would be a day when he could modify the saber technique to a perfect state. In the process of practicing the saber technique, Yang Tian realized that the saber in his hand had become lighter. However, he did not immediately want to change to a new saber. This was because he was about to fight with Du Xiongwu. If he changed to a new saber, even if it was just a little heavier, it would still affect his performance. This would have to wait until after the fight with Du Xiongwu. At 7 o'clock, Wang Hong had finished preparing breakfast. After breakfast, a car stopped at the entrance. Yang Tian and his parents sat in the back, while Qin Lao sat in the front passenger seat. After the car started to move smoothly, no one in the car said anything. In the end, It was Yang Tian who broke the silence. He smiled and said, "After this matter is over, I'll go to Hero City to see Xiao Fei. I haven't seen her for more than half a year." Speaking of Qin Fei, Yang Tian's parents smiled. This was because Qin Fei would be their daughter-in-law soon. Although the two of them were not even 40 years old, they wanted to hold a grandson very much. Qin Lao smiled and said, "Young man, you should go out and walk around. It's also good to see the outside world. Hero City is not far from the sea. When the time comes, you can go and see the exotic beasts in the sea. It's difficult to produce a 9th-level exotic beast on land, but there are exotic beasts that surpass the 9th level in the sea." This was the first time Yang Tian had heard that there were exotic beasts surpassing the 9th level in this world. Isn't a 9th-level exotic beast the top exotic beast? Yang Tian asked Qin Lao curiously. Qin Lao smiled and said, "No one said that 9th-level exotic beasts were at the peak of their evolution. This old man has seen exotic beasts surpassing the 9th level before. You will understand when the time comes." Qin Lao's words made Yang Tian hold back the questions he wanted to ask next. "Looks like I'll only know things that most martialists don't when I reach the 9th level." Yang Tian thought to himself. After driving for about 10 minutes, the car came to a stop. The location of the duel between Yang Tian and Du Xiongwu was at Tianxiong City's martialist arena. A public duel between two 8th-level martialists was something that hadn't happened in many years. The martialists who heard the news filled the arena, which could only hold about 1,000 people. Not all the people who came to watch the duel were martialists. Most of them were rich businessmen and the family members of the martialists. These people treated the duel between Yang Tian and Du Xiongwu as a lively event. Some people even set up bets to see who would win and who would lose. The odds for Yang Tian to win were 1 to 5. The odds for Du Xiongwu to win were 1 to 1.2. Based on these odds, most people didn't think that Yang Tian would win. After all, Yang Tian had just become a level 8 martialist, while Du Xiongwu had been a level 8 martialist for a long time. No matter how one looked at it, Yang Tian's chances of winning weren't very high. Chapter 84. Old 8. Old 8. Just as Yang Tian entered the arena, he curiously looked at those rich people who were waving their banknotes and betting. Suddenly, he heard someone call Old 8. Moreover, the voice sounds very familiar. Yang Tian looked in the direction of the voice and saw Zhao Wu waving at him. Zhao Wu is surrounded by red-haired Xiao Fei, who looks very conspicuous. There are also Zhou Feng, Lu Xiao, Wang Guang, Li Xian, and Lu Jian. All 7 of them are here. Yang Tian happily laughed and immediately walked over. This martial arts arena was like a small soccer field, but in the middle was a square martial arts arena. The martial arts arena was surrounded by iron fences. The iron bars are not very high, only about 1 meter. Xiao Fei and others are all warriors. They're squeezing beside the iron bars. Old 8, after this is over, let's go to heaven on earth. You promised. Xiao Fei said with a smile. No problem. Yang Tian nodded. At this time, Zhao Wu waved the betting slip in his hand at Yang Tian and said with a smile, 8th brother, I've taken out all the money I can to bet on you winning. You can't lose, or else my wife won't spare me. How much? Yang Tian curiously asked. Zhao Wu said, 5 million. If you win, this 5 million will become 25 million. I will pay for your treat later. Pa! As soon as Zhao Wu's voice fell, Zhou Feng patted Zhao Wu's head and said, Don't worry, Old 8 will definitely win. Just wait to count the money. Zhao Wu touched his head and said with a wry smile, Why did you hit me? You bet 10 million, more than me. Zhou Feng awkwardly smiled. Old 8, they all bet a few million or tens of millions. I bet 100 million, Xiao Fei said at this time. Of course, Yang Tian is happy that his teammates completely trust him. He said with a smile, Don't worry, this time you will make enough money. Yang Tian must win because if he loses, he will die. After chatting with Xiao Fei and the others for a while, Du Xiongwu finally arrived. When Yang Tian and Du Xiongwu stood in the middle of the arena with weapons, the surrounding audience all shut their mouths and looked at the two without blinking. especially the warriors. Martial artists were the wealthiest people in this world. Almost all the martial artists had placed their bets. The outcome between Yang Tian and Du Xiongwu would affect their monetary benefits. Also, as a warrior, they naturally want to see a showdown between experts and gain battle experience. Yang Tian held his saber and quietly looked at Du Xiongwu, who was more than 10 meters away from him. Du Xiongwu is using a type of hook saber. This is a custom-made weapon. The length and shape of this saber is similar to the Tang saber in Yang Tian's hand. The difference is that the tip of this saber is a sharp hook, just like the tip of a fish hook. If it pierces into a person's body with a pull, a large piece of flesh will be hooked off. It is a ruthless weapon. Moreover, it is very likely that this weapon is smeared with poison. Du Xiongwu is also wearing simple leather armor. This kind of leather armor is not simple. Its defensive ability is even stronger than the armor worn by Qi Sun and Wei Zhong. The two of them looked at each other, and then there's a long silence. Neither of them made the first move. This situation lasted for a few minutes. Why aren't they fighting? Yeah, what are they waiting for? Don't make a sound. You guys don't know shit. In a fight between experts, a moment of carelessness will give the opponent an opportunity. They are accumulating power. Soon, whispers of discussion could be heard from the surrounding crowd. Most of the people who spoke were the family members of the warriors and wealthy businessmen. These people are not warriors and naturally do not understand why Yang Tian and Du Xiongwu have waited for so long and did not make a move. As for the warriors, they are holding their breaths and watching the two of them without blinking. They are afraid that if they blinked, the two of them will make a move. Looking at Du Xiongwu, Yang Tian was originally a little nervous. This is his first time dueling with a real level 8 warrior. Being nervous is an instinctive reaction. But after a few minutes of adjusting his mentality, there's only one thought in his mind, and that is to defeat the person in front of him. This is the psychological quality that Yang Tian has trained in the forest for half a year. Pung! Suddenly, the two of them moved at the same time and rushed toward each other. Both of their feet stomped on the ground, creating a deep hole in the grass. Warriors do not know Qigong. In order to exert power, they need something to borrow power from. The more power they use, the more damage it will cause to the object. Pung! Almost at the same moment the two of them moved, they collided. The two weapons collided and made a rapid, vibrating sound. Yang Tian and Du Xiongwu's figures bounced back at the same time. Phew! After stabilizing his body, Yang Tian let out a long breath. He felt his arm is a little numb. Du Xiongwu is indeed a level 8 warrior. His strength is incomparable to a level 7 warrior. Du Xiongwu also stopped at this time. He and Yang Tian had the same feeling. This kid, his body doesn't look strong, but his strength is great. Du Xiongwu thought to himself as he looked at Yang Tian. Pung! Pung! Suddenly, the two of them moved again. There were two consecutive sounds of feet stomping on the ground. Their figures once again collided with each other. TCH, this time, when the two of their weapons collided, there was no loud sound of impact. Instead, there was an ear-piercing sound of friction. Just like before, the two of them were quickly bounced back by each other's strong strength. What was different from before was that the two of them did not separate immediately. Instead, in a short 2 seconds, they exchanged more than 10 moves. Ordinary people could only hear the sound of metal rubbing against each other, but they could not see their movements clearly because it was too fast. After the two of them separated, they once again rushed towards each other. Yang Tian was very careful with Du Xiongwu, especially with his weapon. This was because the hook blade might have been smeared with level 8 sea dragon venom. This was something that should not be touched. Chi chi, pung pung, dang dang. The two of them constantly flashed in the arena that was less than 1,000 square meters. It was a dazzling sight. Old 8 speed is so fast. I'm already a level 5 martial artist, but I can't even last one move against Old 8. Xiao Fei said seriously as he stared at the battle between the two of them. Old 8 is so powerful, Zhao Wu said in surprise. Xiao Fei did not explain because there was no need for him to explain. To the spectating martial artists, a battle of this level was simply unimaginable. Yang Tian and Du Xiongwu's figures flashed like fleeting shadows. Their speed was too fast like lightning. They were probably close to the speed of sound. Pung. At this moment, there was a loud sound. Yang Tian and Du Xiongwu separated at the same time. The two of them fought for more than 10 minutes. Du Xiongwu was already panting slightly, but Yang Tian was still calm. His face was not red, and he was not panting. Seeing Yang Tian's calm and composed appearance, Du Xiongwu's eyes flashed with a fierce glint. Yang Tian's growth was too fast. In just half a year, he had become a level 8 martial artist. His advancement speed could only be described as terrifying. As a level 8 martialist, Du Xiongwu naturally understood that it would take a long time for a martialist to grow from a level 1 martialist to a level 8 martialist. Yang Tian's uniqueness naturally caused him to have a deep sense of wariness. Chapter 85. At this time, Du Xiongwu was ready to use his poison. Du Xiongwu's principle was to achieve his goals by hook or by crook. He was able to become a level 8 martial artist and become the owner of Shunwei Martial Arts Hall when he was in his prime because he was unscrupulous. Du Xiongwu's poison was actually not applied on the hook knife in his hand, but on the silver needles he carried on his body. At this moment, in the eyes of the onlookers, the two of them looked like they were resting. However, both of them knew that this was only the preparation before the final move. Pong! Suddenly, Du Xiongwu moved first. Yang Tian was always paying attention to Du Xiongwu's movements. When the other party moved, he also moved. Pong! Chi! The two weapons collided once again. In the stalemate, there was a friction sound. The powerful strength of both sides repelled each other again. At this moment, puff, 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 several silver rays shot out from Du Xiongwu's left hand and shot at Yang Tian's body. Hidden weapon. Yang Tian's eyes narrowed slightly as a thought appeared in his mind. His body moved, and he rushed towards Du Xiongwu again. From the moment the two of them separated, Du Xiongwu shot out the silver needles. To Yang Tian suddenly rushing towards Du Xiongwu again, it only took a moment. Most people did not notice the silver needles that Du Xiongwu shot out. Only a few level 6 and level 7 martial artists who were watching the battle saw it. Among these people, there were naturally some who felt that Du Xiongwu's behavior was shameful. However, this was a battle of life and death. If he lost, he might die. No matter what method he used, no one could say anything. Seeing his silver needles hit Yang Tian's chest, Du Xiongwu was delighted. He knew that Yang Tian was not wearing leather armor. No matter how hard his body was, his silver needles would still pierce through his skin. These silvery white alloy needles had been soaked in the venom of a grade 8 sea dragon. Du Xiongwu felt very uncomfortable carrying them on his body, so he had to be very careful when using them. This was because once this poison entered the human body, it would cause harm. Even if Yang Tian was a level 8 warrior, as long as one of the silver needles pierced through his skin, although he wouldn't die, his body would quickly become numb and his mobility would be greatly reduced. That would be the time for him to win. Killing Yang Tian was something that Du Xiongwu had been looking forward to for a long time. Facing the charging Yang Tian, Du Xiongwu also moved. Once again, he exchanged several moves with Yang Tian. During this process, Yang Tian deliberately slowed down the speed of his saber to avoid Du Xiongwu's saber by a hair's breadth. He also pretended to be shocked. On the other hand, Du Xiongwu smiled proudly. Of course, Yang Tian did this to let his opponent think that he had been poisoned. He had already guessed that Du Xiongwu must have smeared poison on the needles. Making his opponent careless was something that Yang Tian had learned from his countless battles with others. In the past 6 months, not only had Yang Tian's cultivation base increased, but he had also gained a lot of experience in defeating opponents. In addition to making use of the surrounding environment, these experiences also included psychological tactics. In a battle of life and death, one couldn't afford to be distracted. Underestimating and carelessness would give the enemy an opportunity to take advantage of. Ah! Suddenly, Yang Tian screamed and fell backwards. Du Xiongwu was delighted when he saw this. His legs moved, and he flashed in front of Yang Tian. He slashed at Yang Tian's neck. At this time, the cold smile on Du Xiongwu's face was clearly reflected in Yang Tian's eyes. In Du Xiongwu's cold smile, there was a kind of excitement, the excitement of revenge, and a kind of ruthlessness and indifference. Clang! Pooh! Unexpectedly, Yang Tian suddenly moved. He twisted his waist, and his body spun. The saber in his hand bounced off Du Xiongwu's saber. His body spun again, and the saber in his hand slashed viciously at Du Xiongwu's abdomen. Although this slash didn't cut open Du Xiongwu's abdomen, it sent his entire body flying. To the people watching the duel, Yang Tian's move was really too cool. Du Xiongwu's body flew more than 10 meters away and landed heavily on the ground. This attack didn't cause any fatal damage to Du Xiongwu. He quickly bounced up. After swallowing a mouthful of blood, Du Xiongwu raised his saber and pointed at Yang Tian, speechless. He really wanted to ask Yang Tian why he was fine after being shot by the poison needle. Yang Tian wouldn't tell him that his skin had grown dragon armor, so of course it could block the silver needle. You've already lost. Do you still want to fight? Yang Tian looked at Du Xiongwu and asked lightly. For Du Xiongwu, the following was a multiple-choice question. He was already injured. If he fought with Yang Tian, he would lose sooner or later. If he didn't fight and admitted defeat, then it would be almost impossible to avenge his son's death. He couldn't use the power of the martial arts club to deal with Yang Tian. Also, he would lose face. Du Xiongwu's expression was gloomy and uncertain. The people around him saw it and felt conflicted for him. Make your decision. At this time, Yang Tian said lightly, Make your decision. These 4 words, when they came out of Yang Tian's mouth, were like 4 sharp blades cutting into Du Xiongwu's heart. These were the words of a strong person to a weak person. To Du Xiongwu, these words were so ear-piercing. When did he, Du Xiongwu, become a weak person? Looking at Yang Tian's smiling face, Du Xiongwu gritted his teeth and sneered. He pointed his saber at Yang Tian and narrowed his eyes. Kid, don't think that you'll win just because I'm injured. After Du Xiongwu finished speaking, he casually threw the saber in his hand and stabbed it into the ground not far away. Did this mean he was giving up? Obviously not. After throwing the saber in his hand on the ground, Du Xiongwu clenched his fists. His eyes suddenly turned blood red, as if blood was about to seep out. It wasn't just his eyes. Du Xiongwu's skin was also changing. At this time, one could see the blood vessels under his skin gradually protruding. His entire body seemed to be covered with tree roots. What was going on? Many martial artists at the side couldn't help but frown. Stop! At this time, one buck shouted loudly. Before the voice died away, a figure appeared on the field. Qin Lao. The person who came was Qin Jingyang. Qin Lao looked at Du Xiongwu and said lightly, Using the hidden force in your body to forcefully break through the realm without swallowing a grade 9 beast core is equivalent to extracting your own life force. Although you can reach the realm of a grade 9 martial artist in a short time, what about after that? Have you thought about the consequences? Du Xiongwu sneered and said, A warrior can be killed, but not humiliated. If I don't kill Yang Tian today, I swear I won't give up. Grade 9 martial artist. After hearing Qin Lao's words, Yang Tian knew that Du Xiongwu was actually going to forcefully break through to the realm of a grade 9 martial artist. Of course, Du Xiongwu's method came at the cost of harming his body. The grade 9 martial artist's realm couldn't last long. It wasn't only Yang Tian who was surprised. The spectators were also very surprised. A grade 8 martial artist could break through to the realm of a grade 9 martial artist without swallowing a grade 9 beast core. This was too unbelievable. Chapter 86. Martial artists who had not reached level 8 did not know that it was possible to reach level 9 in a short period of time. In fact, once a martial artist reached level 8, they would naturally understand that it was a way to use hidden power. The reason why Yang Tian did not understand was because his current martialist realm was only at rank 7. He was only able to defeat a rank 8 expert by relying on the power of the Dragon Orb. But level 9, Yang Tian had no confidence in winning at all with his current strength. Qin Lao, this is a fair duel. Please do not interfere. Du Xiongwu looked at Qin Lao and said through gritted teeth. Qin Lao turned around and looked at Yang Tian. Yang Tian started to hesitate as well. He was not hesitating to admit defeat, but at this moment, the surrounding people did not even dare to breathe. They did not expect things to turn out this way. Du Xiongwu wanted to forcefully reach level 9 in order to kill Yang Tian. Du Xiongwu, it's not too late for you to stop now. Forcefully increasing one's level will extract the energy from one's cells as the price. Even if you kill Yang Tian this time, the door to becoming a level 9 martial artist will be closed to you forever. Are you willing to accept this? Qin Lao looked at Yang Tian and turned to persuade Du Xiongwu. It was every martial artist's dream to reach the peak of martial artist. They would never be able to become a level 9 martial artist. Du Xiongwu frowned when he heard this. Then, he sneered. Dignity is sometimes more important than life to a martial artist. What is a realm? He said it boldly. Some people could not help but nod after hearing this. Some of the high-level martial artists who saw Du Xiongwu use hidden weapons sneered. If Du Xiongwu cared about the dignity of a martial artist, why would he use hidden weapons on Yang Tian? Do you think we are all blind? In fact, Du Xiongwu couldn't stop now, which was why he said such words. If he wanted to stop, he would need Old Man Qin's help to suppress the hidden energy that was circulating in his body in a strange way. But this way, Du Xiongwu would be even more humiliated. No, it should be called a slap in the face, a slap to his own face, the kind that would resound loudly. Little Tian, come with me. At this moment, Qin Lao turned around and said to Yang Tian helplessly. Du Xiongwu was about to become a level 9 warrior. Qin Lao knew that with Yang Tian's current strength, Du Xiongwu would not be able to defeat him. If he did not intervene, Yang Tian would die. Not to mention his feelings for Yang Tian, this junior, Qin Lao also did not want Du Xiongwu to kill Yang Tian. Even if Du Xiongwu was promoted to a level 9 warrior, Qin Lao was confident that he could take Yang Tian away. As for the trouble in the future, Qin Lao did not care at all. The onlookers thought that Yang Tian would immediately nod and agree. However, what surprised them was that Yang Tian shook his head and said to Qin Lao, Grandpa, even if he is a level 9 warrior, I still want to give it a try. When Yang Tian said this, his tone was very firm. There was also a strong sense of confidence in his eyes. Where did his confidence come from? Qin Lao stared at Yang Tian's eyes and frowned slightly. After hesitating for a while, Qin Lao nodded and walked out of the arena. He believed in Yang Tian and believed that Yang Tian would be able to face this crisis. In fact, Qin Lao had been paying attention to Yang Tian's every move for the past 6 months. Otherwise, he would not have arrived at the right time to rescue Yang Tian from Du Xiongwen's hands. Yang Tian had brought Qin Lao too many surprises. Would it be the same this time? Du Xiongwu could forcefully raise his level at the cost of damaging his body. Yang Tian could do the same. In fact, the little blue dragon had already taught Yang Tian this life-saving method at a critical moment. Compared to the method used by Du Xiongwu, Yang Tian's method actually had fewer side effects. At worst, he could just swallow more beast cores to replenish it. There was no permanent damage to his body. Until now, Du Xiongwu's aura was still increasing. When Qin Lao left, Yang Tian also threw down the sword in his hand. Power of the Dragon Ball, erupt. In his heart, Yang Tian silently said. At the same time, Yang Tian's mind had already descended into the Dragon Ball world in his body. In this world, the Dragon Ball was just a small dot emitting a golden light. When Yang Tian's mind entered this small dot, boom, the entire Dragon Ball world suddenly trembled. The golden dot suddenly became bigger and became the size of the Dragon Ball when Yang Tian used the power of his mind to compress it for the last time. At this moment, the Dragon Ball released a majestic power of the Dragon Ball. This kind of energy was too powerful. Once it was released, it filled Yang Tian's body. His breathing quickened, his heart beat faster, his blood flowed faster, his body temperature rose. During this process, the blood vessels on the surface of Yang Tian's skin did not swell up like Du Xiongwu's. It looked terrifying. It was just red, like the skin of a newborn baby. Yang Tian's aura was also increasing very quickly. The warriors watching the duel outside the arena also noticed this change. However, in their view, Yang Tian was the same as Du Xiongwu. They were both forcefully raising their realm. Many warriors shook their heads and felt pity for Yang Tian. Yang Tian became a level 8 warrior at such a young age. As long as there were no accidents, he would soon become a level 9 warrior and become the youngest level 9 warrior in human history. But now, the door to becoming a level 9 warrior was about to close to Yang Tian. Most of the martial artists thought so, but old man Qin didn't think so. This was because Qin Lao could see the difference between Yang Tian and Du Xiongwu. The way Yang Tian used it was obviously different from the way Du Xiongwu forcefully raised his realm. Looking at Yang Tian, Qin Lao's eyes lit up. This time, Yang Tian surprised Qin Lao again. He did not know how many secrets this young man had. Perhaps it was fate that Xiao Fei chose Yang Tian. It was a long story, but in fact, only a few minutes had passed since Du Xiongwu forcefully raised his realm. When Du Xiongwu forcefully raised his realm, Yang Tian had also considered interfering with him. However, Qin Lao had appeared. Obviously, besides wanting to stop Du Xiongwu, Qin Lao had also sent a message to Yang Tian. That was in the process of raising Du Xiongwu's realm. Yang Tian could not defeat him. Smart people did not need to say it out loud. They could see it with their own eyes. Otherwise, old Qin wouldn't have suddenly appeared and made an unnecessary move. Chapter 87. Very quickly, an even more powerful aura emanated from Du Xiongwu's body. In just a few minutes, Du Xiongwu's skin and flesh had shrunk a little. Compared to before, he was like a completely different person. If he wore glasses, he would look 70 to 80% similar to Du Xiongwu. The clothes on his body were much looser, and he looked a little funny. The skinny Du Xiongwu's skin had returned to normal. It was not like before when the blood vessels all over his body protruded out of his skin, making him look like a monster. After completing the upgrade from level 8 to level 9, Du Xiongwu did not immediately attack Yang Tian. Instead, he frowned and picked at his ears. This strange action reminded Yang Tian of the time when he was being chased by Du Xiongwu. After Qin Lao appeared, he also did something similar. A doubt appeared in Yang Tian's mind. At this time, Yang Tian had also upgraded his level and completed a temporary strengthening. At this moment, he felt that his body was filled with incomparable power. It was as if he could destroy a high-speed train with one punch. His 5 senses had also been upgraded to an incredible level. He could even feel the airflow around his body. The subtle movements of the people outside the arena seemed to be in slow motion. Du Xiongwu picked at his ears uncomfortably, then put down his hands and looked coldly at Yang Tian. Oh, suddenly, Du Xiongwu moved. His figure flashed, and he appeared in front of Yang Tian. Because his speed was too fast, the friction between his body and the air produced a sound like a bubble bursting. This speed had already surpassed the speed of sound. Moreover, when Du Xiongwu moved, he did not create deep pits in the ground because he had to borrow force from the previous battle. Level 9 warriors had already entered a new realm in terms of the use of power. In just a moment, Du Xiongwu appeared in front of Yang Tian and punched at Yang Tian's chest. His speed was so fast that the level 7 martial artists outside the arena could not see Du Xiongwu's movements clearly. In Yang Tian's eyes, Du Xiongwu's movements did not seem to have changed much compared to when he was a level 8 martial artist. In the face of Du Xiongwu's fast punch, Yang Tian dodged and retreated 5 meters to the side. During this process, Yang Tian was surprised to find that at the beginning of his movements, as if he was in water, the surrounding air formed a resistance against him. This resistance was like a thin layer of film. The moment he broke through this layer of film, he was first blocked by the film. However, he broke through very quickly. It was as if he had returned to land from the water. He became very free. In the eyes of ordinary people and low-level martial artists, Du Xiongwu seemed to have teleported. He disappeared from his original spot and suddenly appeared in front of Yang Tian. Then, Yang Tian's figure shook and appeared in another place. The Level 7 martial artist saw that when Yang Tian and Du Xiongwu were moving, there were afterimages flashing in the path of their movements. Du Xiongwu's punch missed. His body moved, and he charged at Yang Tian again. As for Yang Tian, he dodged once again. In the eyes of others, the two of them seemed to have teleported. They suddenly appeared in one place, and then suddenly appeared in another place. Bo, bo, bo. When Yang Tian and Du Xiongwu moved, their bodies collided with the air, creating a series of dull explosions. During this process, Yang Tian kept dodging. He was not afraid of Du Xiongwu's fists. Instead, he was enjoying a strange feeling. Every time he moved, it was as if he had rushed out of the water. Yang Tian knew that he could not maintain this state for long. However, it was not easy for him to become so strong. He had to experience it slowly. This is so powerful. Zhao Wu, who was watching the battle, saw the two of them flash like teleportation. He opened his mouth wide and murmured. It was not just Zhao Wu. Many of the spectators were so shocked that they could not close their mouths. Xiao Fei and the others were among the martial artists who came to watch the battle. Many of them not only knew Yang Tian, but had also fought with Yang Tian before. For example, Zhu Hongyu, Zheng Dalong, Qi Sun, Wei Zhong, Zhou Dedeo. Those who wanted to kill Yang Tian back then felt complicated when they saw Yang Tian's skills. A few months ago, Yang Tian could be easily killed in their eyes. Now, if Yang Tian wanted to, he could take their lives in the blink of an eye. They did not even have the chance to resist. We owe him. I guess we can't pay him back in this lifetime, Wei Zhong murmured. The fact that Yang Tian did not kill him and Qi Sun back then had been engraved in their hearts. Qi Sun sighed and did not say anything. Among the people present, only Qin Lao could clearly see the two's expressions and movements. Seeing Yang Tian deal with it with ease, he could not help but nod his head. It was obvious that he was having fun. There were several times when Du Xiongwu thought that his fist could hit Yang Tian, but Yang Tian dodged at the right time. No matter how hard he tried, all he hit was air. Du Xiongwu could not help but feel anxious. If he continued to waste time with Yang Tian would not even need to make a move. When he ran out of strength and his realm fell rapidly, Yang Tian could kill him with a single finger. He thought that by forcibly raising his realm, he would be able to kill Yang Tian. He did not expect that Yang Tian would use such a method. After a few minutes, Yang Tian stopped enjoying the pleasure of moving quickly and began to treat the battle seriously. Pung! Facing Du Xiongwu's fist again, Yang Tian did not dodge. When Du Xiongwu's fist came at him, he used a blocking punch. This move, in this era, was a move that even a 3-year-old child could use. Yang Tian's left hand pushed Du Xiongwu's fist away. His right hand clenched into a fist and hit Du Xiongwu's chest hard, making a dull noise. Du Xiongwu's body flew diagonally into the sky. His speed was extremely fast, like a cannonball flying out of a cannon barrel. In cartoons, some bad guys were often sent flying by the protagonists. This situation was very similar to the one in cartoons. However, Du Xiongwu did not fly that high. He was only about 30 meters high. When he fell, he smashed into the crowd of onlookers. Fortunately, there was a level 6 warrior nearby who pulled the surrounding people away. Buffed. After falling to the ground, Du Xiongwu turned over and stood up. He covered his chest and spat out a large mouthful of blood. Yang Tian's attack was not weak. Du Xiongwu was injured again. Yang Tian understood that he was able to injure Du Xiongwu with one punch because Du Xiongwu was injured when he forcibly raised his realm. The effect of the increase was reduced. Many of the onlookers were stunned again. They thought that the battle between two warriors who forcibly raised their realm to level 9 would be very long. They did not expect it to end so suddenly. Chapter 88. I must kill Du Xiongwu. This was Yang Tian's thought at the moment. If it were martial artists like Fonda and Zhu Hongyu, Yang Tian wouldn't kill them. However, Du Xiongwu was different. This person was the same as Su Zhan and Bai Kai. They were the type of people that Yang Tian hated the most. If he let Du Xiongwu live, Yang Tian wouldn't be afraid of him. However, in the future, Du Xiongwu would still cause him a lot of trouble. Picking up the saber from the ground, Yang Tian walked towards Du Xiongwu. When Yang Tian walked out of the arena, the spectators automatically parted to the sides. Du Xiongwu stood up and looked coldly at Yang Tian. No! At this moment, a woman's voice sounded. The woman that appeared in front of Yang Tian was the woman that Yang Tian had seen in Yu Wei's office in the martial arts committee that day. She was Zhu Shaoqing, Du Xiongwu's wife. Zhu Shaoqing stood in front of Du Xiongwu and looked at Yang Tian with a pleading expression. Yang Tian looked at Zhu Shaoqing's face and remembered what she had said to him in Yu Wei's office that day. She had said that his life wasn't worth anything and that her son's life was more precious than his. Yang Tian became even angrier. This was the second time that Du Xiongwu had been injured. He no longer had the strength to fight with Yang Tian. He pulled Zhu Shaoqing away and looked coldly at Yang Tian. He said, Yang Tian, you can kill me, but don't touch my family. Dad, Mom. At this moment, a young woman ran over in a panic and yelled, Master, you're going to die. This young woman was the daughter of Du Xiongwu and Zhu Shaoqing, Du Mei. Looking at the family of three, Yang Tian stopped. Yang Tian knew that as long as he made a move, he could cut off Du Xiongwu's head in the blink of an eye. Among the people present, only Qin Lao could stop him, and Qin Lao certainly wouldn't do that. In other words, as long as Yang Tian was willing, he could take Du Xiongwu's life right now. But looking at the two women protecting Du Xiongwu, Yang Tian couldn't do it, especially when Du Mei appeared. Yang Tian looked coldly at Du Xiongwu's family of three, wondering if he should kill them or not. Little Tian. At this moment, Yang Tian's mother, Wang Hong, walked over. Mom. When Yang Tian heard the familiar voice, he turned around and was surprised to see his mother. He didn't expect his mother to come here at this moment. Let them go. Wang Hong said calmly as she came in front of Yang Tian. Wang Hong was soft-hearted. At the same time, she didn't want to see Yang Tian kill people, so she walked over. All along, Yang Tian was a cheerful and good child in her heart. Yang Tian also didn't want his parents to see him kill people, so he took a deep breath and nodded. Let's go. Let's go back. Yang Tian turned around and helped Wang Hong out of the arena. Whoosh! At this moment, there was a gust of wind. Then, there's the sound of a sharp blade piercing into a body. They thought that the matter had come to an end, but they didn't expect something like this to happen all of a sudden at this moment. Du Xiongwu's right hand was grabbed by Yang Tian's left hand, and the blade in Yang Tian's hand had already pierced Du Xiongwu's chest. Many warriors saw the situation clearly. Yang Tian was helping his mother out when Du Xiongwu suddenly moved and appeared behind Yang Tian and his mother. He slapped his palm toward the top of Yang Tian's mother's head. If this palm hit, Yang Tian's mother would definitely die. Yang Tian reacted quickly. He grabbed Du Xiongwu's hand and stabbed the blade in his hand into Du Xiongwu's chest. Hee. Yang Tian. Du Xiongwu looked into Yang Tian's eyes and laughed. He spat out a large amount of blood. I've already let you go. Why'd you do this? Yang Tian asked with a frown. Yang Tian knew that Du Xiongwu did this on purpose. He didn't want to kill his mother, but he was courting death. That's right. Du Xiongwu was courting death. He wanted Yang Tian to kill him. Looking at Yang Tian's puzzled expression, Du Xiongwu took a few breaths and finally spoke more smoothly. For a warrior, if there's no hope in the realm and you can't take revenge, then what's the point of living? Can't raise your head for the rest of your life and be mocked by others? Yang Tian pulled out his blade and pushed Du Xiongwu away. Ugh! Du Xiongwu fell to the ground and spat out another mouthful of blood. Xiongwu, Dad! At this time, the stunned mother and daughter Zhu Shaoqing and Du Mei came to their senses. They screamed in horror and ran over to help Du Xiongwu up. Wang Hong had never seen such a bloody scene. She hid behind Yang Tian. Du Xiongwu looked at Yang Tian and laughed. Zhu Shaoqing covered the wound on Du Xiongwu's chest. Suddenly, she raised her head and looked at Yang Tian with hatred. Yang Tian killed Zhu Shaoqing's son, Du Feng. Now he stabbed Du Xiongwu. As a mother and wife, it would be strange if she didn't hate Yang Tian for killing her son and husband. Du Mei also looked at Yang Tian with the same expression. Looking at Zhu Shaoqing and Du Mei's resentful eyes and their expressions that looked like they wanted to cut him into pieces, Yang Tian's mind was filled with some melodramatic TV plots. After he killed Du Xiongwu, Zhu Shaoqing and her mother relied on the connections and resources left by Du Xiongwu to grow into high-level martial artists. They used all kinds of methods to take revenge. In the end, they finally killed him, the ultimate boss, with their blades. Thinking of the situation, Yang Tian couldn't help but laugh. Whoa! Seeing Yang Tian laugh, Zhu Shaoqing pointed at Yang Tian. She was so angry that she couldn't speak. Suddenly, she cried loudly. If he died so easily, he wouldn't be a martial artist. That stab of mine probably only injured his stomach. He should be able to survive after undergoing surgery in the hospital. Seeing the mother and daughter's heartbroken appearance, Yang Tian shrugged and smiled. Yang Tian was in a hurry and made a reflexive counterattack. At that moment, he realized that Du Xiongwu deliberately bumped into him. Originally, he was going to stab Du Xiongwu's heart. However, he suddenly changed his mind and moved the blade down. After Yang Tian finished speaking, he ignored the three people and walked out with his mother, Wang Hong. At this time, Zhu Shaoqing reacted and immediately shouted, "A few people come and send the dojo master to the hospital. Quick, quick!" Although Du Xiongwu was seriously injured, he was still the dojo master of Shunwei Martial Arts Dojo. The few martial artists closest to him immediately ran over and immediately became busy. "Yeah, we're making money. Ha ha ha." Before he walked out of the martial arts arena, Yang Tian heard Zhao Wu's excited shout behind him. Du Xiongwu's life and death had nothing to do with Zhao Wu and the others. They only knew that Yang Tian won. The odds were 1-5. They were rich now. After Zhao Wu's roar, many people immediately waved their gambling tickets and went to find the banker. The martial arts arena was in chaos. There was no longer the austere atmosphere. Chapter 89. Puff. As soon as Yang Tian got in the car, he covered his chest, spat out a mouthful of blood, and fainted. He had forcefully used the power of the Dragon Ball to increase his realm. Now that the time had come, it was time to take effect. Little Tian, seeing their son vomiting blood and fainting, Yang Lin and Wang Hong were shocked. "Drive to the hospital." Qin Lao, who was sitting in the passenger seat, said with a frown. "Doctor, how is it?" After Yang Tian was sent to the hospital, the doctor used advanced medical equipment to examine Yang Tian's body. Yang Lin and Wang Hong, who had been waiting anxiously for a long time, saw the doctor open the door and asked in unison with a worried look on their faces. The middle-aged doctor who examined Yang Tian smiled and said, "Don't worry, the patient is fine. He will be fine after resting for a while." Hearing the result, Yang Lin and Wang Hong finally breathed a sigh of relief. The next day, Yang Tian woke up and was discharged from the hospital on the third day. This abnormal recovery ability of the body made Yang Tian's attending doctor secretly speechless. After leaving the hospital and returning to Qin Lao's villa, Qin Lao examined Yang Tian's body. Qin Lao's examination method was very simple. He just pinched Yang Tian's arm in arm, and that was it. Well, your body didn't suffer any damage, and it won't have any impact on your realm improvement. After the examination, Qin Lao said with a smile. Yang Tian had already known this result. He scratched his head and smiled. Qin Lao asked curiously, "When the doctor examined you that day, what was the matter with the scales on your body?" Ah, Qin Lao's words shocked Yang Tian. Fortunately, Yang Tian had strong self-control and didn't jump up. How could this be explained? When he left the martial arts arena that day, Yang Tian had dispersed the power of the dragon pearl that maintained the scales on his body. After he fainted, these scales naturally fell off. Yang Tian didn't expect that he wouldn't be able to hold on for long after forcefully raising his realm. After he was sent to the hospital, Qin Lao naturally found out. Yang Tian thought about it and felt that it was better to tell the truth, because this kind of thing couldn't be hidden from Qin Lao. In the past, Qin Lao didn't ask much, and Yang Tian didn't need to answer. But now he had to say it, because when he married Qin Fei in the future, Qin Fei would also know. At that time, she would definitely tell Qin Lao. If he didn't say it now, Qin Lao would definitely misunderstand that Yang Tian didn't trust him. It's like this. Yang Tian thought for a moment, organized his words, and said, "I have a dragon pet." Dragon pet? Qin Lao was very surprised. He opened his eyes wide and looked at Yang Tian. Yang Tian nodded and smiled at the window. "Xiaolong, why aren't you coming in?" Not long after Yang Tian's voice fell, two squeaks came from outside the window. Then, a green shadow flashed and stopped on Yang Tian's shoulder. After the little blue dragon arrived, it looked at Qin Lao with some vigilance. After all, Qin Lao was a level 9 martial artist. Little blue dragon could feel the aura on Qin Lao's body. When it came to humans, little blue dragon only trusted Yang Tian. Although Qin Lao was old, as a level 9 martial artist, his eyes were naturally sharp. When the little blue dragon stopped on Yang Tian's shoulder, he saw the little blue dragon's entire body clearly. It's really a dragon. Looking at the little blue dragon, Qin Lao stroked his beard and sighed. "Last year, I graduated from high school." Yang Tian scratched the little blue dragon's body and began to slowly explain. His speech lasted for half an hour. Yang Tian explained in detail, and Qin Lao listened very seriously. After Yang Tian finished, Qin Lao was silent for a moment. Then he looked at Yang Tian and said, "Little Yang Tian, that is to say you're not using hidden power, but another kind of energy. Is it the power of the Dragon Ball that you mentioned?" Yang Tian nodded. "Yes. Actually, if I don't use that kind of power, I'm only equivalent to a level 7 martial artist." "What about this little blue dragon? What level is it now?" Qin Lao raised his hand and pointed at the little blue dragon coiled on Yang Tian's shoulder and asked again. I don't know either." Yang Tian shook his head. At this time, the little blue dragon cried out. After the little blue dragon finished speaking, Yang Tian smiled and said, "Xiaolong said that it's not an exotic beast." "Not an exotic beast? How is that possible?" Qin Lao was very surprised when he heard this. He stood up, frowned in the room, and walked back and forth. "Grandfather, what's wrong?" In this world where exotic beasts ran rampant, Yang Tian wasn't surprised that the little blue dragon wasn't an exotic beast. Even if an immortal suddenly appeared in the room, Yang Tian would probably be able to accept it calmly and not make a fuss about it. But Qin Lao's reaction, Yang Tian felt that it was strange. Qin Lao didn't pay attention to Yang Tian for a while. After a long time, he sat down, hesitated for a moment, and said to Yang Tian, "The little blue dragon isn't an exotic beast, so I'm not worried. What I'm worried about is Sai." Old man Qin let out a long sigh as he spoke. It was the first time that Yang Tian saw Qin Lao's distressed look. "Grandfather, you must know a lot of things that I don't know. I really want to know. For example, other than you, where did the other level 9 martial artists go?" Out of curiosity, Yang Tian took this opportunity to ask. Qin Lao looked at Yang Tian and hesitated for a moment. Then he said to Yang Tian, "You know how the YS virus came about, right?" Yang Tian nodded. Qin Lao said, "Actually, what the Braveheart brought back wasn't just some microorganisms. It also brought back something very mysterious. It's like a door. When the Braveheart returned to Earth, all the electronic equipment on the spaceship suddenly malfunctioned and exploded on the surface of the sea. Everything on the spaceship fell into the deep sea. You know most of the things that happened after that. The animals on Earth mutated and martial artists were born. What many people don't know is that when a martial artist enters the level 9 realm, they will receive a mysterious summon. This kind of summon is like a person whispering in your ear, saying something you don't understand. It's also like a monk chanting sutras, constantly repeating a sutra. In the beginning, it's still refreshing, but after a long time, it becomes unbearable and disturbing. Fortunately, I thought of a solution, which is to restrain all the hidden energy in my body. Only then did the voice in my ear disappear. The disadvantage of doing this is that without the constant nourishment of the hidden energy, my skin will age and become loose. My appearance will be the same as an ordinary person's, showing my actual age. Actually, after reaching the level 9 realm, I can live for more than 300 years and maintain my youthful appearance for a long time. There are actually many level 9 martial artists like me in this world. More level 9 martial artists received the summon and went to that mysterious place, which is where the Braveheart crashed. After they went, there was no news of them. None of them came back. They might still be alive, or they might already be dead. Chapter 90. The brave spaceship that Qin Lao had mentioned was the spaceship that had returned from Mars. Everyone knew that the brave spaceship had brought back a type of microorganism when it had returned. This microorganism was also the source of the YS virus. However, according to Old Man Qin, after the Braveheart returned from Mars, it didn't only bring back microbes, but also a door. Very few people knew about this. After Qin Lao finished speaking, he looked at the shocked Yang Tian and said, "When you become a level 9 martialist, you will face the same choice as me. Whether you choose to enter that door or stay behind like this old man, it's all up to you." If it wasn't for Xiao Fei, Qin Lao paused and took a deep look at the little blue dragon on Yang Tian's shoulder. He then stood up and walked out. Yang Tian was unable to calm down for a long time. What Qin Lao had told him had shocked him too much. This had changed Yang Tian's understanding of this world. In Yang Tian's mind, there had always been beasts and martialists. However, from the looks of it, things weren't that simple. "Xiaolong, do you know where it is?" Yang Tian asked the little blue dragon as he came back to his senses more than 10 minutes after Qin Lao left. Yang Tian was very curious about the mysterious summoning. "Cheep, cheep, cheep." The little blue dragon squeaked, telling Yang Tian that it didn't know about this. Yang Tian smiled helplessly. When the little blue dragon had come out of the egg, he had been right in front of it. How could he have known about this? It looked like he would only have the opportunity to come into contact with this mysterious summoning after he had truly become a level 9 martialist. He had to raise his realm to level 9 as soon as possible. Yang Tian looked out the window and clenched his fists tightly. Everything that Qin Lao had said made Yang Tian vaguely feel that level 9 martialists were not the pinnacle of a martialist realm. If there were beasts that surpassed level 9, then martialists could definitely surpass level 9 as well. Woo-woo. At that moment, the little unicorn opened the door with its head and ran in. It stopped in front of Yang Tian and squeaked intimately. When he saw the little unicorn, Yang Tian couldn't help but think of his girlfriend, Qin Fei, and the matter of going to Hero City. Before that, he still had many things to settle. After killing a pack of wolves with Mark, Yang Tian obtained 16 rank 1 beast cores, 10 rank 2 beast cores, 8 rank 3 beast cores, 6 rank 4 beast cores, and 2 rank 5 beast cores. After feeding the little unicorn a rank 1 beast core, Yang Tian was left with a total of 41 beast cores. He planned to leave a portion for the little unicorn and sell the rest for money. Although humans were still trapped in the safe zone, they couldn't live without money if they wanted to enjoy a good life. As for the remaining beast cores, Yang Tian wanted to keep them for himself, especially when he was injured. Also, the dragon orb in his body needed to absorb more energy to recover to its original state. Little Unicorn had already completely digested the energy from the level 1 beast cores. It had been growing very quickly these few days. After Yang Tian took out the beast cores, he picked out a level 2 beast core and put it into Little Unicorn's mouth. Woo-woo! After swallowing the level 2 beast core, Little Unicorn happily hummed twice and jumped onto Yang Tian's bed. It entered a short sleep to digest the energy from the level 2 beast core. Xiaolong, look after it. I'm going out for a while. Yang Tian put the beast cores into a small backpack and said to the little blue dragon, "Squeak, squeak." The little azure dragon let out a cry of grievance and agreed. The little blue dragon wasn't suited to stay in a human city. To it, it was like being locked in a cage. It wasn't very free. It wanted to go out into the wild and be free. Although Yang Tian had already told Qin Lao about this matter, Yang Tian and the little blue dragon didn't want more people to know about the existence of the little blue dragon. Yang Tian carried his backpack and sword and walked out of the room. He then said goodbye to his parents and left Qin Lao's villa. After leaving the villa, Yang Tian called for a car and asked the driver to drive him to the city gate. After paying the driver, he quickly left the city. In the city hospital, Du Xiongwu had already undergone surgery. The strong recovery ability of a martial artist allowed Du Xiongwu to get out of bed and walk around. At this time, in Du Xiongwu's exclusive ward, Du Xiongwu's wife, Zhu Xiaoqing, and Du Xiongwu's 2 sons, Du Cheng and Dewey, as well as his daughter, Du Mei, were all in the ward. "Dad, what should we do now?" Du Cheng looked at Du Xiongwu lying on the hospital bed and asked with a frown. Ever since he forcibly increased his realm and was defeated by Yang Tian, Du Xiongwu's realm had fallen to level 6. Obviously, he could no longer be the master of Shunwei Martial Arts Hall. Du Cheng asked about future plans. Du Xiongwu thought for a while and said faintly, "Pack your things. We'll leave Tianxiong City and go to Hero City." Du Xiongwu had accumulated a lot of wealth during his years as the master of Shunwei Martial Arts Hall. It wouldn't be a problem for him to live a luxurious life in Hero City. Moreover, Du Xiongwu's younger brother, Du Xiongwen, was also in Hero City. They could look after each other there. After Du Xiongwen was defeated by Qin Lao didn't allow him to return to Tianxiong City. Now, he was living in Hero City. Hearing that they were leaving, Zhu Xiaoqing looked at Du Xiongwu and asked, "When will we get our revenge?" Yang Tian had killed Du Xiongwu and Zhu Xiaoqing's son, Du Feng. Now, he had forced Du Xiongwu to be demoted. How could Zhu Xiaoqing forget this kind of deep hatred? The matter of Yang Tian letting Du Xiongwu off last time had long been thrown to the back of her mind. She had long forgotten the scene of her begging Yang Tian for mercy during the martial arts competition. Besides Zhu Xiaoqing, Du Xiongwu, Du Cheng, Dewey, and Du Mei all had looks of hatred on their faces. Although they hated him, they couldn't do anything to Yang Tian. As long as you're alive, there will always be a chance. Du Xiongwu glanced at his 2 sons. This revenge will depend on the 2 of you. As long as you're alive, there will always be a chance. When Du Xiongwu said this, there was a helpless tone in his voice. Yang Tian didn't expect that after letting Du Xiongwu off, the hatred between him and the Du family would be resolved. It was just that he didn't want his parents to see him kill Du Xiongwu that day, so he let Du Xiongwu go. Compared to Du Xiongwu's life, Yang Tian felt that his parents were more important. If his mother hadn't come out, Yang Tian would have definitely killed Du Xiongwu, because Du Xiongwu's methods were too despicable. Yang Dao left the city and walked around the city walls. Finally, he found the place where he had purchased the beast cores. After opening the tent and entering, Yang Tian saw the short-haired man in camouflage clothing. "Welcome." After seeing Yang Tian, the short-haired man smiled and greeted him. The light in the tent was very dim. The short-haired man only recognized Yang Tian when he got closer. "Yang Tian, young Master Yang." After seeing Yang Tian's face clearly, the short-haired man exclaimed in surprise. How do you know my name? Yang Tian was a little surprised. When he had sold the beast cores and bought the saber, he hadn't mentioned his name. The short-haired man smiled and said, "Who in the entire Tianxiong city doesn't know you now? Although I'm not a martial artist, I've interacted with martial artists. Naturally, I know that young Master Yang has shown his prowess and defeated Du Xiongwu." Yang Tian nodded. When he had alighted at the city gate, many people had noticed Yang Tian and stared at him on the way here. Of course, this was because of the martial artist arrest order and the battle with Du Xiongwu. Many people recognized Yang Tian. "Young Master Yang, welcome to our shop again. Do you want to sell beast cores this time? Or do you need to buy something?" The short-haired man gestured for him to enter. The furnishings in the tent were basically the same as before. However, the beautiful woman behind the counter was no longer there. Yang Tian stopped by the counter, put down the saber in his hand, and unzipped his backpack. He took out all the beast cores and placed them on the counter. He smiled and said, "I want to sell these beast cores." Seeing so many beast cores, the short-haired man's eyes lit up, and he smiled. This was a big business deal. If he succeeded, he would get a lot of commission. The short-haired man counted the beast cores that Yang Tian had taken out. There were 10 level 1 beast cores, 5 level 2 beast cores, 4 level 3 beast cores, and 4 level 4 beast cores. There were a total of 23 beast cores. According to the calculation of 1 million martial coins for each level 1 beast core, 5 million for each level 2 beast core, 10 million for each level 3 beast core, and 50 million for each level 4 beast core. The total value of these beast cores was 275 million martial coins. After checking that there were no problems with the beast cores, the short-haired man nodded to the beautiful woman behind the counter, indicating that he could transfer the money. Yang Tian did not need the beautiful woman's reminder. He handed over his bank account number. The beautiful woman had a pretty face and a good figure. After she took the bank account number from Yang Tian, she looked at Yang Tian affectionately. It was rare to sell beast cores that cost over 100 million martial coins in one go. Although she did not know who Yang Tian was, she knew that if she could get close to him, she would not have to work so hard anymore. However, she did not see any hope in Yang Tian's eyes. The beautiful woman transferred the money to Yang Tian while feeling dejected. Of course, Yang Tian knew what this woman was thinking just by looking at her. However, Yang Tian was not interested in a woman like her. Yang Tian smiled and nodded when he saw that his martial artist assistance device had received a transfer notification from the bank. With a net worth of 200 million, he could be considered a rich man in Tianxiong City. He could buy a better villa in the villa district. Yang Tian felt embarrassed to stay at Qin Lao's place all the time, even though they would become a family in the future. Yang Tian had come here to sell the beast cores because he did not have to pay taxes outside the city. A transaction of 1 or 2 million martial coins did not cost him much. However, a transaction of 200 million martial coins would cost him almost 20 million. It was not worth it. "Young Master Yang, is there anything else you need?" The short-haired man asked with a smile after completing the transfer. Yang Tian pulled out his saber and looked at it. He said to the short-haired man, "This saber is a little light now. Do you have any heavier ones?" The short-haired man shook his head and said helplessly, "I only have standard sabers. If you need any, you'll have to go to the weapon shop in the city to order one." "All right, I don't have anything else to buy. Goodbye," Yang Tian said and walked out. "Young Master Yang, take care. Come again next time," the short-haired man said with a smile. At that moment, the beautiful woman in front of the counter looked at Yang Tian bitterly. Yang Tian had not looked at her since the beginning. After selling the beast cores, Yang Tian went straight back to the city. Chapter 91. After returning to the city, Yang Tian sent a message to Xiao Fei and invited him to drink at Earthly Paradise. Yang Tian would treat them. Aside from inviting Xiao Fei and the rest, Yang Tian also contacted Zhou Hao. Xiao Fei and Zhou Hao agreed without hesitation. They agreed to drink until they were drunk that night. After meeting Xiao Fei and the rest, Yang Tian went to a shop in Tianqiong City that specialized in custom-made weapons. The shop was called the Edge Forge. It wasn't big, but the decorations were exquisite. There were even beautiful receptionists. Hello. The moment Yang Tian entered, the beautiful receptionist came up to him and greeted him warmly. Yang Tian had a backpack slung over his shoulder and a saber in his hand. It was obvious that he was a martial artist. Yang Tian nodded at the passionate receptionist and said, "I would like to custom make a saber." The beautiful receptionist led Yang Tian to the back of the shop, where there was a design room. I didn't expect them to be so professional. After entering the design room, Yang Tian glanced at the furnishings inside and thought. The design room was much bigger than the shop outside. There was a huge weapon rack in the room, filled with models of all kinds of weapons. Most of them were made of wood. There was also a measuring machine that specialized in measuring the human body. A middle-aged man who claimed to be a weapon designer came up to him. Yang Tian had thought that it would be easy to make a saber. However, after he said what he wanted, the middle-aged man used a measuring machine to measure his height, weight, and arm length. He also asked a few other questions, such as the weight range of the weapon Yang Tian wanted and what kind of battle techniques he wanted to use. After that, the middle-aged man drew a model on the computer and calculated a series of numbers based on Yang Tian's body values and the information that Yang Dao had given him. Next up was the question of the price. 20 million martial coins. Yang Tian was shocked when he heard the price. That's too expensive. The sabers that Yang Tian was currently using didn't even cost more than 1 million martial coins. However, the middle-aged designer said, "It's not expensive at all. When a weapon is made and you use it, you'll feel that it's worth it." Yang Tian shook his head. Although he had just sold the beast cores and earned more than 200 million martial coins, he did not have the mentality of a nouveau riche. He truly felt that it was too expensive. Seeing the expression on Yang Tian's face, the middle-aged designer smiled and said, "The price of YT elements has risen tremendously. Compared to half a year ago, it has increased by 5 times. According to your needs, the cost of materials alone is close to 10 million yuan. The materials are so expensive. It can't be, right?" Yang was in disbelief. The middle-aged designer smiled and said, "You may not know this, but the YT element added to the knife you're using has reached the maximum value of YT element alloy in order to achieve the corresponding weight. It's more than 3 times the weight of ordinary YT element alloy. There's also the cost of labor and transportation during the forging process. There's still a certain amount of risk involved in this process. If there's an accident during the forging process, such as an unreasonable amount of YT element being added, or if the length or width of the knife exceeded the margin of error, not only will we not make any money, but we'll also have to pay a huge price. If you don't believe me, you can go to other shops and take a look." After the middle-aged designer finished speaking, he looked at Yang Tian expectantly. Yang Tian felt that he still needed to think about it before making a decision. He wasn't stingy, but the environment that he grew up in made him very careful when it came to spending money. Although he already had more than 200 million martial coins in his bank card, he was still very cautious. At that moment, the sound of footsteps came from outside. Yang Tian turned around. The beautiful receptionist who had brought Yang Tian here earlier had brought in 2 more people. The one who came was someone Yang Tian was familiar with, Zhao Shuangxing. Beside Zhao Shuangxing was a young woman in black who carried a bag. Yang Tian had seen this woman before and knew that she had a white mouse as her pet beast. "Yang Tian, I didn't expect to see you here." Zhao Shuangxing couldn't help but smile when he saw Yang Tian. Yang Tian smiled and said, "Brother Zhao, what a coincidence." After walking in front of Yang Tian, Zhao Shuangxing saw the blueprint on the computer screen and asked, "Are you here to customize a weapon?" Yang Tian nodded. "I didn't expect custom-made weapons to be so expensive. A knife that weighs more than 15 kilograms actually costs 20 million. Zhao Shuangxing smiled and said, 20 million isn't expensive. Mr. Zhao, you're here. The weapon that you ordered last time is ready." At this moment, the middle-aged designer said with a smile. Zhao Shuangxing nodded at the designer. The designer didn't ask his apprentice to do it. Instead, he personally opened a large safe in the design room and took out a long wooden box. He placed it on a wide table in the design room. The designer opened the box to reveal a silver-white handgun. Zhao Shuangxing took out the short spear from the box. First, he weighed it in his hand. Then, he rotated the end of the spear. With a ka sound, the short spear suddenly elongated, turning into a 2-meter-long spear. Woo-woo, Zhao Shuangxing shook the handle of the spear a few times and nodded in satisfaction. How much is this gun? Yang Tian asked curiously. Zhao Shuangxing smiled and said, 40 million. If it was half a year ago, it would be more than 10 million. The main reason is that the price of the materials has increased. Also, weapons with mechanisms like this are complicated to make, so it's much more expensive. Only then did Yang Tian realize that the designer wasn't trying to rip him off with the price. Yang Tian didn't want to go to any other shop. He turned around and said to the designer, just make it according to this blueprint. Yang Tian changed his mind. The designer smiled happily. In fact, he rarely received orders for weapons that cost more than 10 million. Of course, he had to pay in advance to order a weapon. Yang Tian took out his bank card and made a down payment of 10 million. The remaining 10 million would be paid when he received the goods. Yang Tian, are you free tonight? After leaving the shop, Zhao Shuangxing smiled and asked Yang Tian. Yang Tian guessed that Zhao Shuangxing wanted to treat him to a meal, but he had an appointment tonight. He could only shake his head apologetically. I have an appointment with Brother Xiao and the others. Why don't you come too, Brother Zhao? The more the merrier. Zhao Shuangxing smiled and nodded. Yang Tian turned around and said to the woman in black standing beside Zhao Shuangxing, let's go together, beauty. Zhao Shuangxing said, I forgot to introduce you. This is my disciple, Zhu Yu, a level 3 martial artist. Brother Yang, it's nice to meet you. Zhu Yu reached out her hand and smiled at Yang Tian. Me too. Yang Tian reached out and shook hands with Zhu Yu. I still have some things to deal with. See you at Heaven on Earth at 8 o'clock. After letting go of Zhu Yu's hand, Yang Tian smiled and said to the two, okay. Zhao Shuangxing nodded. He doesn't look like a level 8 martial artist at all. He doesn't have any airs at all. Looking at Yang Tian in the distance, Zhu Yu smiled and said. Zhao Shuangxing nodded, but smiled bitterly and said, I don't think he will join our Tianwei martial arts hall again. What a pity. Chapter 92. It was already noon when they returned to Qin Lao's villa. After lunch, Yang Tian took his parents to the sales department of the villa area. Now that he had money, Yang Tian's wish to buy a villa could finally be realized. When he was still in school, Yang Tian was especially envious of the rich people who lived in the villa area, because living here was not only comfortable, but also the safest place in the city. The price of a villa was very expensive. The sales lady introduced more than 10 villas to Yang Tian. Several of them had been lived in by others, so the price was relatively cheaper. However, the cheapest one cost more than 70 million. One of the biggest villas was worth more than 130 million. The owner had just entrusted it to be sold. Yang Tian didn't want to live in an old villa. He casually asked and found out that it was the villa that Du Xiongwu's family wanted to sell. Du Xiongwu was no longer a level 8 martial artist. Naturally, he was no longer qualified to be the master of Shunwei Martial Arts Hall. He took the initiative to resign and wanted to leave Tianxiong City with his family. The villa that Du Xiongwu wanted to sell was several times larger than the villa that Qin Lao lived in. It had all kinds of facilities. If Du Xiongwu's family hadn't lived in it before, Yang Tian would be interested. However, after knowing, he decided to buy a new one. Little Tian, we don't have many people in our family. Just buy a smaller one. After looking at the villa model, Wang Hong frowned and said, for her, villas that cost tens of millions or hundreds of millions were too expensive. She felt that the house she bought before was good enough. Yang Lin smiled and said, it's okay if it's bigger. Little Tian, when you get married in the future, you have to raise children and hire servants. If the house is small, it won't be enough. It's better to buy a bigger one this time. Yang Lin's opinion was the same as Yang Tian's. It was worth it to spend more money to live in a comfortable and safe place. Mom, Dad is right. Let's choose this one, Yang Tian said, and chose a new villa. This villa was only about 2 kilometers away from Qinlao's place. It was well equipped and even had a spacious basement. The basement was perfect for storing important things. If necessary, it could be converted into a small training room. Seeing that her son had made up his mind, Wang Hong didn't say anything else. Of course, just looking at the model was not enough. Under the guidance of the sales lady, Yang Tian toured the place. This villa had a total of 3 floors, and its appearance was relatively beautiful. There were courtyards in the front and back. Although it was newly built, the interior had been meticulously renovated. As long as some furniture was added, it could be lived in. Yang Tian observed for a while and found no signs of occupancy, so he decided to buy it. After some bargaining, Yang Tian paid 120 million martial coins in one go. This price was much higher than Yang Tian had expected. After paying, the family of 3 returned to the villa and began to discuss how to decorate. Seeing his parents happily discussing which room to live in, which room to leave for Yang Tian and Qin Fei, and where to hire servants to live in the future, Yang Tian felt a strong sense of accomplishment. He had finally achieved half of his goal of becoming a martial artist and letting his family live a stable and happy life. Xiao Tian, hurry up and bring your wife back. You're not young anymore. It's time for you to get married. We're waiting to hold our grandchildren. Hearing his mother's nagging again, Yang Tian quickly said, Mom, I know. I'll go to Hero City in a few days and bring Xiao Fei back. Now that we have a house, let's go buy 2 cars. After that, Yang Tian left the villa area with his parents. He spent more than 1 million martial coins to buy a black off-road vehicle and a white car. Before there were no exotic beasts, one had to get a driver's license to drive. Now, however, one could drive as long as they didn't hit anyone. As for the cars, they were all of the same brand. There was no choice at all. Tianxiong City covered an area of several hundred square kilometers. With such a large area, it was much more convenient to move around the city with a car. After buying furniture in the city and decorating the villas simply, it was already dark. Yang Tian drove the off-road vehicle he just bought and arrived at the entrance of Heaven on Earth. The sky had just turned dark, but the entrance of the city's most high-end entertainment place was already filled with cars. Rich people and beautiful women were going in and out. It was the busiest place in the city. After Yang Tian parked the car, he walked through the entrance of Heaven on Earth. Xiao Fei was the most familiar with Heaven on Earth. He had already booked a KTV room that could accommodate dozens of people. Yang Tian arrived on time. It was 7:50 p.m. When he walked into the room, he realized that everyone he had arranged to meet was already there. Xiao Fei's group of 7, Zhou Hao and his girlfriend Li Yin, Zhao Shuangxing, and Ji were all there. Other than these people, there were more than 10 beautiful women accompanying the guests. A young woman who was good at singing was drinking on the stage. When Yang Tian walked in, they all stood up. Xiao Fei smiled and pulled Yang Tian to sit beside him. He waved his hand towards the stage, and the beautiful woman stopped singing and lowered the volume of the music. We knew that you would be fine. You're finally fine now. Come, let's have a toast to celebrate. After Yang Tian greeted his friends one by one, Xiao Fei picked up the wine that he had poured earlier and said with a smile. They all stood up and downed a cup of fiery liquor. This wine is really strong. After burping and putting down the glass, Yang Tian smiled bitterly. After drinking this glass of wine, his face turned red. Xiao Fei laughed. Didn't we agree on this? We're not going home until we're drunk. Next, everyone at the table drank while talking about Yang Tian's matters in the past 6 months. When the wine was almost finished, Zhao Shuangxing looked at Yang Tian and asked with a smile, Yang Tian, have you ever considered returning to our Shunwei martial arts hall? When Zhao Shuangxing asked this question, except for Yang Tian, Xiao Fei, Zhou Feng, Zhao Wu, and Zhou Hao didn't have a surprised expression on their faces. They all looked at Yang Tian with anticipation in their eyes. Yang Tian knew that Xiao Fei and the others had already discussed this matter before he came. Although he drank half a liter of strong wine, Yang Tian's mind was still very clear. After thinking for a while, he said, I know that the Tianwei Martial Arts Hall was forced to expel me. Later on, I also thought about this issue. After thinking about it, I felt that it's better to be alone and not join the martial arts hall. For others, joining the martial arts hall was a must. This was because people could only rely on the martial arts hall and the strength of a team to steadily increase their strength step by step. But for Yang Tian, this was completely unnecessary. He had the little blue dragon, so the path of a martial artist was destined to be different from others. It was more suitable for him to walk alone. When Yang Tian received Zhao Wu and Xiao Fei's invitation, it was because Xiao Fei had helped him before and it wasn't good to refuse. On the other hand, it was because he was curious about the martial arts hall. What happened later made Yang Tian understand that there was no need for that. Seeing Yang Tian refuse, Zhao Shuangxing sighed helplessly and seemed a little disappointed. A level 8 martial artist was a top expert in this world and was the target of all the martial arts halls. Zhao Shuangxing mentioned this matter to Yang Tian because of the Tianwei Martial Arts Hall's Shui Yun. Everyone, don't just stand there, come. Let's continue drinking. Seeing that the atmosphere was a little cold, Xiao Fei raised his glass again. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.